Chapter 10. The Truth About IWA. After their encounter with the demon brothers Meizu and Gozu, Kakashi immediately questioned Tazuna about why he really hired two teams of Konoha shinobi. Tazuna, seeing that it would be impossible to lie to Kakashi now that the two ex-Mist Nin had spilled the beans, gave in and explained the situation. Gato, sole owner of the Gato Shipping Company, arrived in Wave about a year ago. At first, the people were happy because it was believed that the arrival of such a prominent figure would transform Wave from a small little country into a big-name player in the trading world. Citizens even dreamed that the financial upswing would see the return of a ninja village in their country. Excitement, however, turned into fear 2 weeks later when Gato, after secretly buying up all of the shipping docks in the country, announced that an embargo would be put into place. No ships other than the ones owned or endorsed by Gato were allowed in or out of the country, preventing the people from receiving any sort of money, food, and the like. It also prevented them from leaving. While there were plenty of ships that went in and out of the country, most of the cargo going in went to Gato and his men. The citizens of Wave were forced to make do with 15% of whatever came in. The shop owners were forced to pay a protection fee, which amounted to 90% of their revenue. As a result, most novelty shops went out of business. Gato cut the owners of necessity shops, such as grocery stores, a break and took half their revenue instead of most of it, allowing the people to feed themselves, but that was all. Just when they thought that the situation couldn't get worse, it did. A local hero, who Tazuna felt would become his son-in-law, was executed in front of the entire village by Gato and his hired Ronin when he spoke up against Gato's practices. The town spirit was broken after that, unable or unwilling to go against Gato out of fear of being publicly humiliated, then killed. Tazuna then said that he got the idea to build the bridge to the mainland from the former daimyo of Wave, who went missing shortly after. With a bridge to the mainland, Gato's control over the country would be broken since every country in the ninja world had a law stating that it was forbidden for any person, group, or company to control a bridge of any kind for any reason without the consent of the countries involved. Once built, the bridge becomes government-owned by the Land of Fire, since Wave doesn't currently have a recognized daimyo to negotiate control. Gato knew this and upon learning of the bridge and its creator, responded by attempting to hire Zabuza, Haku, and the Demon Brothers, but they refused upon learning why Gato wanted to hire them. Instead, the greedy billionaire did the next best thing and hired 3 IWA Boulder Nin, who managed to capture Haku. This forced Zabuza and the Demon Brothers into working for Gato under extreme protest. Before he went missing, the former daimyo of Wave left Tazuna with a bank account that evaded Gato's control. While there was more than enough money to hire a team of jonin, most of the money had to be used to fund the supplies for the bridge. This forced Tazuna to hire 2 teams of genin instead of a squad of the best available jonin. After hearing Tazuna's story, a vote was taken in order to decide if the mission should be voided or continued. Naruto, Sakura, and INO immediately voted to continue the mission. They would be damned if they were going to allow some midget tyrant walk all over human rights in Wave. Kakashi voted to continue since his students did so. Inabi and Sasuke voted to void the mission based on the fact that not only had Tazuna lied about the mission, which was now a ranked, but also didn't have the funds to pay for such a high-ranking mission. Ami also voted to void the mission, but she didn't give her reason. Team 7 suspected that Ami was scared of going up against such high-ranking shinobi. Kakashi had said that in the event that the voting results in a split, the mission would have to be cancelled since one team couldn't hope to handle 2 Boulder Nin on their own, even with a jonin along for the ride. However, that didn't happen when Kiba, the last person to vote, sided with Team 7 to continue the mission. As expected, this made Kiba's team members and his sensei angry at him, but Kiba ignored this. Having decided on their course of action, the group continued their trek to Wave Country. During the trek, Kakashi noticed something odd: someone was following them. The copy Nin glanced over to his students. He didn't expect any of them to be able to notice their tail, but to his surprise, Naruto looked directly at him and gave a barely noticeable nod. So, he knows? But how? Kakashi and Naruto decided to ignore it for now and continue. Whoever it was, they didn't want them to realize that they were onto them. As it began to get dark, Kakashi decided that twilight was a good enough excuse to stop. All right, we'll stop here for the night. Are you sure? Tazuna questioned. Yes, we need to come up with a plan anyway. After the Demon Brothers, I'm fairly certain that the next encounter will be a jonin-level shinobi. Kakashi said loud enough for the spy to hear, but making so that it wasn't obvious. Tazuna looked confused, but didn't say anything when Naruto shook his head, silently telling him not to talk about anything that they had discussed earlier. Now then, Kakashi continued, Ino, I want you to go and gather some firewood. Sasuke and Ami, locate as many water sources as you can within a 5-mile radius and get a sample from each. Kiba, I need you to hunt for meat and any vegetation that is eatable. Inabi, set up a 1-mile perimeter around the camp. Sakura, stay and guard Tazuna. Naruto, we need to talk. Understood, sensei. Just give me a sec, Naruto said, as he reached into one of his pockets and pulled out a scroll that read, Extra. He unsealed the scroll and out popped 2 more scrolls, except that these scrolls read, Storage, and had the number 0 next to it. Ino, Kiba, takes these with you, Naruto said, tossing the scrolls to his friends. Considering what you're getting is going to be heavy, you'll need them. There aren't any security measures on these scrolls, so all you need to do is simply pump a hint of chakra into the seals to either seal or unseal items. The 2 ninja nodded before vanishing to complete their assignments along with everyone else. Kakashi and Naruto. Kakashi signaled for Naruto to erect a sound barrier around them. Naruto did as instructed, going through a few hand seals. After a few seconds, the immediate area around them shimmered slightly, indicating that the barrier was active. You noticed, Kakashi stated. Naruto nodded in confirmation. Yeah, I noticed all right. Who do you think it is? If I had to guess, I think it's Zabuza. My guess is that he's tailing us to see what we do from here on out. That said, if what the demon brothers said was true, then he may try to communicate with us first, Kakashi theorized. He was about to continue, but stopped when he saw Naruto perform a ram seal. Less than a second later, a small spark appeared at tip of his fingers. After a few seconds, Naruto's eyes shot open. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto spoke, his voice holding a slight edge. We may have a problem. What is it? Kakashi asked. Zabuza isn't the only one out there. This caused Kakashi to pause for a moment. How far out? About a mile from where Zabuza is, Naruto answered. Kakashi knew right then and there who it was. That's too far for them to keep tabs on us. However, the person is close enough to track Zabuza without him noticing. Kakashi thought. Can you identify who it is, Naruto? Not really, my control haven't progressed that far yet without resorting to combining it with a jutsu. However, I can tell you that whoever it is seems to prefer to stay on the ground. Based on that and the fact that our spy is keeping their distance the way they are, there's no doubt about it. It's an IWA Boulder agent. Naruto frowned at that last part. IWA was a very sore spot with Cole and, to a lesser extent, himself. The two sat in silence for a while, trying to come up with a plan for the current situation they were in. They wanted to talk with Zabuza, but the problem with that was that if they talked about what they learned from the Demon Brothers, there was a good chance that the IWA Nin would report the incident to Gato, resulting in Haku's death. That's when it hit Naruto. Sensei, I may have a solution. Kakashi came out of his own thoughts, giving his gen in charge his full attention. I know that our job is to protect Tazuna and we should continue to do that. However, if IWA is truly in contact with Gato, then we can't just simply guard him until he finishes. IWA will simply send more ninja to deal with us. Kakashi stopped at that. That actually makes sense. IWA is a major shinobi nation, so it does stand to reason that they have the resources to monitor the situation. Still, what are you getting at, Naruto? So what are you suggesting? Kakashi responded, voicing a portion of his thoughts. What I'm saying is that maybe we are looking at completing this mission the wrong way. Instead of simply placing dividers around the flower bed to protect them against weeds, why not just get directly to the problem by pulling the weeds out themselves? Kakashi's eyes widened greatly at that suggestion and was about to speak when Naruto held up his hand, indicating his Jonin sensei to let him finish. It may seem like that would be frowned upon, sensei, but it won't be for 2 reasons. Naruto held up his index finger. 1. The Demon Brothers have said that he has been heavily involved in major illegal activities. Activities that have more than likely pissed off several countries since the rise of the shop. 1. What do you think will happen once everyone finds out that Gato is a black market player? Kakashi nodded his head in agreement. Being a major player in the black market doesn't earn you many allies in legit countries or hidden villages which, unfortunately for Gato, are the major shinobi villages and even a majority of the smaller hidden villages. Naruto then held up a second finger, signaling his second point. 2. Not one single country recognizes him as the official ruler of Wave, even the ones who turn a blind eye to his dark alley activities. If we free Wave from Gato, allowing the citizens to elect a new daimyo, IWA will be forced to do nothing or risk losing clients since they will be labeled as an untrustworthy village should they attack Wave or us. They'll try to distance themselves from Gato and his thugs once things go south. Kakashi had to admit that Naruto had very strong points. IWA would want to keep this mission from the public eye if it is revealed that Gato is heavily involved in illegal activities, meaning that even if they had to kill the Boulder Ninjas, IWA would very likely let it go since their involvement could have major consequences for them should it become public knowledge. Still, Naruto, your idea is quite brilliant. However, we still have to come up with a plan to carry this operation out. Keep in mind that if we don't do this correctly, Haku-san will likely lose her life. Kakashi pointed out. I know. That's why I propose that we capture the IWA spy. Naruto then looked Kakashi directly in his eye. You know as well as I do that there's little chance of me beating one of Iwa's elite ninja one-on-one. That's why you're the person that will determine whether this plan succeeds or fails. Kakashi nodded at this. The boy knew that he was powerful for a genin or maybe even a chunin, but at least he knew that taking on a Boulder Nin by himself was suicide. Once we've captured the spy, there's a technique that I've been meaning to try out. It'll be tricky since this person is a Boulder Nin, but if everything goes smoothly, we'll know everything. Naruto finished, emphasizing the last word. Kakashi had to admit that he was impressed with Naruto's approach. There were some jonin that would be hard-pressed to come up with such a plan. Seeing Kakashi nod, Naruto spent the next hour going over exactly what he had planned. Kakashi was silent for a long moment, digesting everything that he and his genin charge just discussed. It wasn't every day that a genin thought up such a complicated plan that not only had a good chance of working, but would also likely cut the mission time from 2 weeks to a few days. Regardless of which country/village you hailed from, the speed of a mission was second only to completing the mission successfully itself. So, what do you think, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked, bringing the jonin out of his thoughts. Naruto. That has to be one of the most well-thought-out plans I've ever heard from a genin. I was going to tell you what I had in mind, and while it works well enough, it would take longer to pull off than yours. I say we go with your plan. Kakashi approved. Besides, Kakashi let a small smirk form on his face. I'm quite interested to see what you've learned from Jiraiya-sama. Naruto returned the smirk. Let's get to it then. Sakura and Tazuna. Hey, Sakura-san. Tazuna spoke up, breaking up the comfortable silence. Yes, Tazuna-san? What's on your mind? Sakura responded. I couldn't help but notice that you and your 2 blonde teammates don't seem to like most of that other team that's with you. Hell, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you 3 looked like you wanted to hurt them. Were it so easy? Sakura muttered darkly. That caused the bridge builder to raise an eyebrow. Those 3 must have done something for this girl to be this dark when she talks about them. As if she read his mind, Sakura began to explain their experience at the academy and even some events after it. While she didn't tell him specific things such as the Kyuubi, Naruto's powers, as well as hers and Ino's, and the information from the mind pool, she wasn't shy about telling Tazuna just how horrible Naruto was treated by a lot of people, herself included. So how do you feel about that kid now? Tazuna questioned. Sakura looked down a bit, remembering her actions towards Naruto. I know that I like him, at least as a friend, but… Sakura blushed as she wasn't able to finish. She felt something else, but she just can't explain it. She came out of her thoughts when she heard their client chuckle a bit. I may be an old man, but I can tell that you really care for the blonde boy. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Things will work out. Just continue to be there for him and the problem will take care of itself. Tazuna saw that Sakura was thinking about something and was about to ask, when the pinkhead beat him to it. The thing is, I think my friend Ino may also like him as well, Sakura said softly. Sakura and Ino had indeed made up, becoming friends again. While she didn't think that it would ever get that bad again, she admitted that she and Ino were going to have to talk about Naruto at some point. Don't worry about that either. From what it seems, you guys get along great. I think that you guys will find a solution that will make everyone happy, Tazuna said sagely. Sakura smiled at that. I don't know how it'll work out, but he seems to believe we can make it work somehow. Maybe when this mission is over, me and Ino can talk about Dash. What are you talking about now, billboard brow? Came a snide voice. Sakura turned towards the voice and scowled. It was Ami, along with Sasuke, who looked bored. That's personal, Ami, Sakura said, successfully keeping her timidness down. So? Ami smirked darkly. That never stopped me before. What makes you think I'll stop now? Sakura wasn't feeling very confident after that threat. Ami had been, and still is, a bully. You would think that all that would stop when they became ninja, but the problem for Ami was that there were at least a few Chunin instructors nearby to ensure that it didn't get too bad. They were no longer in the academy and the only adult present wasn't a ninja. Still, that didn't seem to stop Tazuna from trying to defend the pink-haired kunoichi. She right, young lady. Tazuna stepped forward, a frown present on his face. What was discussed is between me and her. Your name wasn't even brought up. Shut up, you old fool. Ami rudely shot back. I'm a ninja, which means I can do some very unpleasant things to you. When it comes to billboard brow, I can easily get what I want out of her. Now, either shut up or I'll ask Sasuke-kun to shut you up. Tazuna, while slightly scared, looked furious and was about to respond when Sasuke spoke up. She right, old man. This is ninja business. Get involved and you'll have to explain to your family why you came back to them a cripple. The Uchiha threatened before turning to Sakura. I think I can take a guess what you were talking about. You were talking about the dobe, weren't you? Sakura's head was lowered, her eyes hidden by the shadow of her pink hair. Sasuke didn't seem to notice this and continued his taunting. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I guess even monsters need some love, even if it is from a weakling. Sasuke smirked. Sakura immediately snapped her head up, anger clearly present in her eyes. However, she didn't get a chance to respond as a kunai came flying out of the bushes and embedded itself into the ground, right in between Sasuke's feet. Everyone looked towards the direction the kunai came from and saw a highly pissed off Ino Yamanaka. I highly suggest you shut the hell up, Sasuke, Ino said darkly. You've done more than enough to warrant an ass whipping. Ami snorted. She's no threat. Inabi-sensei will cover for us, anyway. She then began to stalk towards Sakura with her kunai drawn. Now then, billboard brow. It's time to tell me what you were discussing with the old F-dash. She stopped when she felt something cold and sharp press against her neck. Drop the kunai or I'll put a permanent smile on your face. Ino hissed in a low, icy voice that caused Ami's blood to run cold. During their years at the academy, she never seen Ino this angry before. It didn't take a genius to figure out that the killing intent that she was currently sensing told her that Ino was serious about severely hurting her. Even Sasuke was shocked at how fast Ino appeared behind his teammate. I didn't even see her move. What do you think you're doing to my student, Yamanaka? Came Inabi's voice as he grabbed Ino's wrist and flung her away from Ami. Ino rolled once before landing on her feet. I should charge you with attacking a fellow shinobi, along with threatening a fellow leaf shinobi. Tazuna stepped forward to defend the blonde. Now, wait a minute. Uchiha-san. Shiha dash. Stay the hell out of this, you old fool. Inabi snapped at the bridge builder, cutting him off. It's bad enough that we actually have to continue the mission when we should have left you to your doom. As far as I'm concerned, you have no say in anything else. Be glad that we have no choice but to follow the orders of Hataki and Dash. What the hell is going on here? Someone shouted. Inabi froze upon hearing that voice and turned around to Naruto looking at the scene with his arms folded, clearly expecting an explanation. Everyone was too stunned to answer. Naruto almost never shouts, unless he's pissed. I'll ask again. What the hell is going on here? Naruto demanded, his glare intensifying. He was starting to lose his patience. Ami, who seemed to forget about Naruto's rank, shot off her mouth without thinking. Get lost? Uzumaki, and let Inabi-sensei handle this. Ami, Inabi shouted with a small hint of desperation. Inabi may despise the blonde Jinchuriki, but he remembered the warning that the Hokage had given them. I certainly don't like it, but on this mission he's our superior. Keep your mouth in check. Ami looked as if she wanted to argue, but even Sasuke was glaring at her as if to say, shut the hell up before you get us in trouble. She huffed out a fine and kept quiet after that. Naruto, seeing that Inabi had enough sense to get his team under control, decided not to add to the issue, but he still didn't like how the Uchiha Jonin treated Tazuna and decided to address that. Inabi-san, may I ask why you were being so extremely rude to the client? He was getting himself involved in shinobi business. Inabi gruffly responded, sending a quick glare to the bridge builder. Naruto calmly turned towards Tazuna and asked, "Is this true? Were you asking about shinobi secrets?" His voice held no anger at all. It was simply a question he wanted to know the answer to. "Heavens, no!" Tazuna exclaimed. "I was defending Sakura-san here from the dash." "I was not," Ami shouted without thinking. Again, Inabi mentally facepalmed. She may be loyal to our cause, but she might very well be the most mentally challenged genin in her entire graduating class. "Ijimeko, your Jonin sensei has ordered you to keep quiet until spoken to, yet you even chose to disobey his orders. That little outburst just got you written up on report." Ami's eyes widened in fury as her hand shot towards her weapons pouch, but it never made it there as a hand had a hold of her wrist. She looked up and saw that Inabi was staring down at her with a look of disappointment. "Move your head away from your weapons pouch. Your actions will be discussed later," he whispered harshly. After Ami was silenced once more, Naruto gestured for Tazuna to continue. "As I was saying," the bridge builder resumed, "I was defending Sakura-san from Ami-san. Sakura and I were having a private conversation and Ami threatened to use force against her to tell her. Her teammate, Sasuke-san, then joined in and threatened to maim me if I didn't stay out of their business." Naruto immediately snapped his head towards the Uchiha and gave him a withering death glare, but continued to talk to Tazuna. "Tazuna-san, the contract states that if one of our shinobi threatens your life without just cause, you are within your rights to press charges against the perpetrator. Do you wish to exercise this right at this time?" Sasuke froze. "That was in the contract? Since when does that sort of thing become standard?" He glanced around. While Ami looked confused, he saw that Inabi was sweating. "This isn't good. Inabi-sensei rarely ever sweats like that." "Shit." "No, I'll let it slide this time," Tazuna stated. Sasuke breathed a sigh of relief, but found that Tazuna was glaring hard at him as if to say, "Do it again and it's your ass." While Sasuke looked unaffected, on the inside he was pissed. "Are we that weak that civilians can now threaten us with imprisonment? That will change when we take over." "That still leaves the matter of Yamanaka holding a kunai to Ami's throat," Inabi stated. "I believe I can answer that as well, Naruto-san." Tazuna spoke up once more. Ijimeko-san drew a kunai and walked towards Sakura-san in a threatening manner. Ino-san then appeared behind her and ordered her to drop the kunai. That's when Inabi-san showed up and tossed Ino-san to the ground. Inabi scowled, but not just at Tazuna, but at Ami as well for making things worse for them. This is humiliating. But if what the old fool said was true, then Ami let her foolish attitude get the best of her. She made her bed. Now she has to lay in it. As for Sasuke, he also needs to learn when to make threats. "I'll have to have a talk with Fugaku-sama about his son's actions. It would seem that my actions may have been a bit rash. If my students Ami and Sasuke did, in fact, threaten you all, then I suppose they need to be punished." Inabi admitted, albeit hesitantly. "I will punish Sasuke myself. He is the heir to the Uchiha clan and must understand that he can't simply threaten someone like that. I leave Ami's punishment to you, Uzumaki-san, since she seems to have the most infractions, one of which was against your teammate." Naruto knew good and well why Inabi chose to punish Sasuke himself. The only thing he's going to tell the little snot is when to make threats, nothing more. As much as I can't stand Ijimeko team, I don't approve of Inabi team throwing her to the wolves. This is definitely going on report. "Fine." Naruto sighed lightly. It wouldn't do any good to try and argue with the man at this point. There was too much they needed to do right now. He then turned his attention towards Ami, giving very cold look. "Ijimeko, as of now, your pay will be reduced and your actions will be reported to the Hokage. You are also no longer allowed to be out of sight of either Kakashi Taishu, myself, or Inabi-san. If you are, you will be brought up on insubordination charges, which may result in you being confined to the village with no missions above D rank for 4 months. Do I make myself clear?" Ami scowled, clearly not happy with her punishment. But the look by Inabi told her that causing any more trouble could result in further punishment from him. He was already displeased with her lack of tact. "Yes, Naruto Taishu." She grinded out, then stomped away with Inabi and Sasuke following her. Not even a minute after they left, Kiba came back with a small amount of blood on his clothes. "Hey guys, I got plenty of food for." He stopped when he saw that his friends seemed to be upset. He sniffed the air out of habit and caught the scent of his entire team being in the vicinity just recently. Okay, what happened? Naruto decided that Kiba should know what happened, since it was possible that Team 11 could try to take their anger out on him. At least Kiba will be cautious around them if he is aware of the situation. To make a long story short, Ami threatened to torture Sakura-chan, while the team threatened to cripple Tazuna-san. Kiba growled at that. The Inuzuka clan doesn't take kindly to people who threaten clan members and clan allies. He is, quite frankly, getting tired of his team's attitude and is very close to filing a request to be put on the inactive list if it meant getting off this team. Kiba, calm down, would you? It's under control. Did you get some good food for us? Naruto asked, attempting to get the Inuzuka male to tone his anger down. Kiba gave a grin and held up the storage scroll Naruto gave him. Unlike before where the scroll had the number 0 on it, it now showed the number 40. Naruto nodded, motioning for him to unseal the scroll. Kiba proceeded to open the scroll and lay it out on the ground before putting his hand on the seal. A loud poof was heard as several brown packages appeared in front of the group. Found some wild boar, some chickens, lots of herbs, and plenty of fire fruit, too. I butchered the animals at another location so that predators would focus on the remaining carcasses instead of the meat I stripped off of them. We should be good until we reach wave. Naruto nodded. All right then. Sakura, I need you to oversee dinner preparations. How long do you think it will take? Sakura went into her think pose for a second as she eyed the ingredients that Kiba brought back with him. We can have dinner ready in about an hour. Give or take 10 minutes, Shusho. Naruto nodded. Good. That's plenty of time to do what Kakashi and I need to do. All right, I leave dinner in your capable hands, Sakura-chan. I'm gonna check back with Kakashi-sensei and then go on my rounds. Naruto smiled as he shoo-shined away, leaving a hint of static electricity in his wake. About 50 yards away, a shadowy figure with a IWA headband had been watching the blonde. So the boy is an Uzumaki, as I suspected, the IWA boulder Nin mused. Combined with the fact that he looks like that accursed yellow flash, it's no doubt that he is the bastard's offspring based on some information that the Namikes may have married someone from Yuzugakure. Capturing the boy would be a far more valuable prize than Zabuza Momochi, although I'm sure Tsuchikage-sama will reward me for bringing him that bloodthirsty maniac as well. The figure leapt away, following the blonde genin. Unfortunately for the spy, he never noticed a seal that was glowing on his back. Seconds after the IWA Nin left, 2 dragonflies that had been sitting on a branch behind him poofed out of existence. Time skip, 30 minutes. The IWA Nin continued to follow the blonde shinobi as he appeared to be making his rounds. The boy stopped when he got into a clearing. The spy grinned evilly. Perfect. He's alone. Time to make my move. The boulder Nin leapt up high in the air and landed right in front of Naruto. The genin appeared to be caught off guard, giving the IWA Nin all time he needed. Secret IWA art, Golem Warrior. Before Naruto could make a move, a short rumble was felt before he heard something rise out of the ground behind him and grab him, effectively pinning his arms to his side. I have to admit, I'm a bit disappointed that you didn't even know that I was following you, son of the yellow flash. The IWA Nin gloated. Now then, before I take you back to IWA to face charges of war crimes, tell me what your team is planning to do with Gato-san. He would get no answer as Naruto simply glared at him. The IWA Nin was beginning to get impatient. He needed to get as much information as possible about the Konoha group. Gato was paying too much money for him to come back without viable info. Gato could then refuse to pay based on his failure to complete his end of the contract, which would make IWA look bad. Deciding to take the interrogation up a notch and gave the blonde several right hook across his face, causing blood fly out of his mouth. Now I'll ask you again. What are you damn leaf fuckers planning to do? Again, Naruto didn't answer. He looked into in his eyes and realized that he wasn't going to get any answers out of him in the short amount of time that he had. Fine. I guess I'm just going to have to continue having them watch to see if I can get more information that way. No answer, huh? That's fine. I'll just have to get the information from someone else. His face then formed a predatory grin. I'm not sure who the pink-haired one is, but I'm quite sure that the blonde one is a Yamanaka. I believe that Tsuchikage-sama has a warrant for the arrest of any member of that clan, too. I wonder what she would taste like. The predatory scumbag was about to knock the blonde genin out when, "Welcome to the end of your life, you worthless IWA scum," came a ice-cold voice from behind him. He spun around and was shocked to see Naruto staring him down with an arctic cold glare. Before the IW Nin could act, Naruto made a one-handed ram seal and muttered, "Kai!" Right after he said that, 5 seals surrounding them in a pentagon formation activated. Bolts of electricity suddenly shot out of the seals and straight towards the boulder Nin. The Nin's eyes widened when he realized that he couldn't move. What have you done to Dash?" He was interrupted by a loud noise from where he had thought he held the boy captive. He turned his head, the only body part he could move. His face went pale when he saw who it was. The golem that he had made was gone, lying on the ground in several pieces, and in its place was the one person that no enemy ninja wanted to see. Kakashi Hatake, aka the copy ninja. Just like Naruto, Kakashi's glare was frosty. That's when it dawned on the boulder Nin. He used a henge to make himself look like the brat. But that means... Did you really think that your presence would go unnoticed with XANBU captain leading this mission? Naruto asked rhetorically. Also, what the hell is this shit about being charged with war crimes? I wasn't even alive when that war happened. That doesn't matter, you son of a murderer. The boulder Nin spat. IWA law states that if an enemy ninja commits a crime against us, they, as well as their family members, can be charged for that crime. The second he finished, he felt a fist impact his stomach, bringing him to his knees. Just what the hell gives your village the right to charge me with a crime I didn't commit? Naruto growled. Especially since it was your village that not only started the war, but willfully attacked and killed civilians. The boulder Nin scowled at him defiantly. Your bastard of a father killed a platoon of our soldiers Dash. Because they raided and murdered an entire civilian village in our country. If anything, your current Kage could charged with war crimes by Fire Country, since that village was directly under their jurisdiction. Naruto yelled, starting to lose his composure. Kakashi moved to calm his genin charge when he heard the IWA Nin snort. So, they refused to serve us when we marched into their town and demanded their livestock and women. Anybody that crossed us as Dash, he was cut off when Kakashi grabbed him by the neck and began to squeeze. Most of my family was in that village. Kakashi spoke with an ice-cold edge in his voice. If that's how the third conducted business then, and even now, then maybe someone needs to remove IWA as a ninja village altogether. The boulder Nin froze in fear. Every story that he had ever heard about Kakashi Hatake being one of the most frightening Konoha shinobi that his village had ever seen began to ring true. Naruto was shocked. He had never seen the famous copy ninja act this cold before, and it was a scary thing to see. Sensei. Although Kakashi let his cool demeanor return to his normal level and stopped applying pressure to his neck, the IWA shinobi then remembered what Kakashi had said and laughed. You actually think that old fool runs our village? Kakashi, surprised by this new piece of info, immediately dropped him to the ground. What the hell did he mean by that? Naruto was just as stunned to hear this. All this time, he thought that the third Tsuchikage had been in power even to this day. What the hell was going on? As if he was reading their minds, the IWA Nin answered the unasked question. Inoki never did like the fact that the council was the reason we decided to go to war with everyone. We have the power to rule the ninja world, and that old midget claims that we shouldn't try to make enemies. As a result, the council decided to remove him from power. Unfortunately, the old bat fled the village before the council could send assassins after him. A new Tsuchikage was elected, and 3 days later, we declared war on Konoha. Believe it or not, the third Tsuchikage is a more wanted man than even you are. Who is the current Tsuchikage, anyway? Naruto questioned. Like I'll tell you, Namikaze scum. You may have escaped capture today, but sooner or later we will get what we want. The death of you, and every member of your family as well as any friends that you have made. We will kill them all. The boulder Nin threatened. He then bit down on something in his mouth. Kakashi's eyes widened. He just activated a suicide pill. Very good, copy ninja. I will be dead within a minute, so unless you can somehow get me to talk in that span of time, I'm afraid that all the secrets that I know will die with me. The IWA Nin laughed maniacally. However, his laughing stopped when he saw Naruto give him a grin that seemed to say otherwise. Seeing the look on the Nin's face, Naruto decided to drop the bomb. knowing that he just got the last laugh. It's a shame that your pill doesn't work faster than that. Naruto smirked as he placed 2 fingers on the boulder nin's forehead. Not even a second later, a seal appeared on his forehead. What are you doing? The IWA nin half shouted in panic. Tell me, Naruto said in a casual tone. What is required for the human brain to translate what we see, taste, smell, hear, and touch? The IWA nin's eyes betrayed his realization of what Naruto was getting at. Damn it! He's going to get the information anyway, he mentally screamed, realizing that Iwa's biggest secret may have just left its walls. Electricity, and unfortunately for you, Naruto's body began to pulse electricity. I have plenty of that. Naruto slammed his hand onto the seal that was on the nin's forehead. The IWA nin screamed as he became engulfed in electricity for what seemed like several minutes. But when this much pain was going through your body, time always felt like it was slowing down. The boulder nin's muscles were now ripping themselves to shreds and smoke was already beginning to form. Finally, Naruto removed his hand from the IWA nin's forehead, causing said ninja to fall to the ground. Dead, his body nothing more than an empty ash husk. May Kami have mercy on your soul? Chimiku no Ishigaki, 3. Naruto stated with cold finality as the wind began to blow away the remains of his body. Kakashi waited for Naruto to collect himself for a minute. Getting all the information from someone else's brain and sorting it out was something that couldn't be rushed. After a few minutes, Naruto finally opened his eyes. Kakashi-sensei, I know where they're keeping Haku. Kakashi nodded. Impressive, Naruto. Good work. Now we can put an end to this mess. Sensei, there's something else as well. Naruto continued. Kakashi gave him a curious look. It seems that Inoki was never responsible for starting the third major shinobi war. In fact, most of their ninja don't even know what really went on. Naruto said quietly. All his life, he and Cole had believed that IWA as a whole was responsible for the fall of Uzugakure. After learning everything from the now-dead boulder nin, it would seem that only a select few were aware of what had really happened, and it seems that the Inoki never had a choice in the matter. What does all of that mean, Naruto? Naruto paused a moment before answering. The 4th Tsuchikage, along with the IWA Council, used a completely separate ninja force to do their dirty work. This nin wasn't a boulder nin at all. He was a member of their secret ninja force. Kakashi's eye widened at what Naruto was implicating. That would mean… Yeah, Naruto answered for him, knowing what his sensei was thinking. This secret ninja force from IWA is known as the core of IWA, and they make Danzo Team's route look like Club Disney. Both teams, as well as their client, Tazuna, were gathered around the campfire, eating dinner that Sakura had cooked, while Team 11, outside of Kiba, refused to give her any sort of credit whatsoever. Everyone else loved her cooking so much that Kiba even asked if she was trained by a Kimichi at some point. Sakura blushed at the praise, but thanked everyone for the compliments. Tazuna himself said that outside of his daughter, she was the best cook he had the pleasure of eating from and asked what she did. Sakura explained that because the wild boar meat was tough, she had decided to use the bones, along with some herbs, to make a stock first. Once that was done, she took the boar steaks and submerged them in the boiling liquid for about an hour and a half. After that, she pulled them out and shredded the pork, turning the steaks into pulled pork. She seasoned the fire fruit with basic seasonings, salt and pepper, and then roasted them along with some garlic. It may have been simple, but Sakura explained that fire fruit is meant to be eaten with minimal seasoning because it already has a lot of flavor to it. The salt simply enhances that flavor, so long as you don't add too much, making it salty, while the pinch of pepper adds a bit more kick. While they were eating, Kakashi and Naruto decided to fill everyone in on what had happened a few hours ago. Without going into how they took down the IWA agent, they explained that everything wasn't what it seemed in IWA to the outside world. Wait, so you're telling us that the Sandaime Tsuchikage wasn't the one responsible for Iwa's actions before, during, and after the war? Ino questioned, still somewhat skeptical. They were taught at the academy that the 3rd Tsuchikage, Inoki, was a complete tyrant. However, then again they also told us that the 4th Hokage killed the Kyuubi, and that said Vixen was an evil being bent on world destruction. Sakura was also taken back by this new information. Naruto-kun, if this got out into the open, it could cause a major political storm in IWA, which will more than likely cause both a political and economic collapse. Would we want something like that to happen to them? Kiba spoke, voicing what everyone else had on their mind. The political part? Yeah, we would, Naruto answered. A major change in government would likely lead to a more peaceful IWA, and IWA that isn't likely to attack us since most of their ninja aren't aware of the truth behind the war. However, Naruto frowned a bit as he thought about the last part. IWA certainly wasn't his favorite place, but he held no ill will towards the civilians or, now, the majority of their ninja. An economic collapse would make life almost unlivable for the civilians there. We can't let this information fall into the wrong hands for that reason alone. Sasuke grunted, uncaring of the situation Iwa's civilians were in. It's their fault whether they admit it or not. They shouldn't have picked the current Sachikage to begin with. Naruto glared at the young Uchiha, although it didn't surprise him since the Uchiha clan always did look down on civilians. That's where you'd be wrong, Uchiha. Those people don't get a say when it comes to village politics. While the Sachikage has absolute power during wartime, and has final say even during peace on any bill or political matter in the village, it's their council who elects the Sachikage of IWA in the first place. Well, in any case, Kakashi cut in, wanting to get his team back to the current mission at hand. We now know the entire situation involving this mission. Thanks to Naruto. The copy Nin mentally added. Despite being Konoha ninja, Kakashi didn't trust Team 11, except Kiba. With any jutsus that Naruto has performed so far, it wouldn't do to give them information that can be used against Naruto at some point. So what's the plan, Kakashi Taishu? Kiba eagerly asked, wanting to get into the action as quickly as possible. Naruto and myself haven't gone over all of the information yet. For now, we continue on to Wave while guarding Tazuna-san as planned. Once we get to his place of residence, we'll set shop and then go from there. Everyone nodded in understanding. It would take way too long to explain everything to them, and they needed to get Tazuna back to Wave so that he could finish the bridge. What they didn't know was that Kakashi and Naruto had already discussed what they were going to do with Haku. Still, even with the knowledge obtained from the memories of Iwa's stone wall of silence, rescuing her would be the hardest part of the mission. Not only was she at Gato's HQ, the two remaining IWA Nin were likely to be guarding her. The plan had to go without problems, or it could cost Haku her life. Another problem was letting Zabuza know about what they were going to do. Zabuza wasn't just going to trust them just like that. He does have a large bounty on his head, after all. However, Naruto had at least solved that problem by sending a hinged clone to Zabuza's known location. 1 hour earlier at a hotel outside of Wave, Zabuza was absolutely frustrated with the situation he and his team were in. He had only been allowed to see Haku once since she was captured by the IWA Nins. While she was mostly unharmed, the scared look in her eyes pulled at his heartstrings. Haku was like a daughter to him, and just like any father, he was scared for her life and her well-being. The ex-Mist Nin wasn't stupid. Bad things tend to happen to kunoichis who were captured. The only reason that he felt that Haku wasn't in immediate danger was because it seemed that 2 of the 3 IWA Nins didn't like what they were doing. In fact, Zabuza noticed that the 2 female IWA Nins shot quick, but heated glares at their employer, Gato, and their male teammate. The male IWA Nin was the one he prayed to Kami wasn't guarding his daughter alone. He had noticed the leering looks the disgusting bastard was giving her, and he didn't like it at all. Another thing that had devastated him was that he had overheard some of Gato's Ronin talking about 2 rogue Mist Nin being found dead by one of the IWA ninjas. It goes without saying that Zabuza was pissed beyond reason. Granted, he wouldn't be happy with the Konoha Nin that apparently killed them, but he didn't blame them much since they were simply doing their job. No, nearly all of the blame goes to Gato. He swore to himself and Kami that he would see that midget bastard dead, regardless of who killed him. His thoughts were interrupted when he heard a noise come from the window. He immediately had his zanbato his hand and swung it towards the noise, but was surprised when a Konoha shinobi with blonde hair had blocked it with what looked like a sword made of light. He was about to make another move when the blonde boy spoke. "Whoa there, big guy. I'm not here to fight." Zabuza stared the young blonde for a long moment, attempting to find any deceit from the boy. However, to his surprise, he found none. With that, he slowly lowered his weapon but still kept it out. "Who are you and what do you want, boy? I'm not in the best of moods right now," Zabuza grunted. "Name's Naruto, Zabuza-san. And what I want is to get you and your team out of this giant clusterfuck. Naruto answered seriously. Zabuza's eyes widened slightly, surprised that the boy knew about their current situation, but quickly went back to his cool stare. And what would you know about our situation? Zabuza lightly barked. You look like nothing more than a greenhorn genin to me. No sooner had he said that is when he felt all of the hair on his body stand up. That's when he saw Naruto's eyes. They gave off a light blue glow. Well, you're half right. I am a genin, but greenhorn. Naruto pointed towards the area surrounding Zabuza. The ex-Mist Nin's eyes widened considerably, and this time they stayed that way. On the floor were 4 seals, all of them pulsing with electricity. Hardly. Zabuza said nothing as he continued to stare at the boy. After a few minutes of silence, a small chuckle could be heard. It seems I've underestimated you, Gaki. Nobody's been able to take me by surprise since before the time I was a newly promoted jonin. Even most chunin show at least a little bit of fear when coming face to face with me. You've got balls, kid. As well as my attention, by the way. What kind of sword is that? Naruto gave a smirk of his own. This is a lightsaber. Most people believe it to be a weapon that was only existed in a science fiction film. Kid, you don't have to dumb it down for me. I've seen my fair share of Star Wars movies. Zabuza chuckled. Still, I have to admit, something like this shouldn't be possible since I'm sure that weapon of yours is an energy guzzler. Which begs the question, how the hell are you powering that thing? Sorry, Zabuza-san, but that's a clan secret. Still, you may come to learn of that in time. Now then, down to business, getting you and your party out of this mess. Zabuza's eyes shifted slightly downwards, with a small hint of sadness. Kid, I overheard one of those weak-ass Ronin talking about how my 2 apprentices had been killed by a bunch of Leaf Nin. His eyes then slightly narrowed. You wouldn't happen to be part of that team, would you? Naruto nodded. Yes, I am. As for that Ronin you are talking about, if he was saying that, Naruto then smirked. Good. It means that our plan is working. Plan? Zabuza raised what would have been an eyebrow if he had one. Naruto held up his hand, signaling him to halt the conversation for a moment. He then made a few hand signs that Zabuza recognized as an A-ranked privacy jutsu. A low hum could be heard for a few seconds before going silent once more. Pardon my interruption, Zabuza-san dash. Just call me Zabuza, kid. I'm not big on honorifics unless they're absolutely necessary. Fair enough, Zabuza. The reason I put up a privacy jutsu is because I don't want Gato, his thugs, or those IWA Nins to find out that the Demon Brothers are, in fact, alive. This caught the rogue ninja by surprise. He quickly schooled his surprise and motioned for the blonde to continue. The bodies that Gato has in his possession are nothing more than blood clones. Granted, they will likely find out in a week that the bodies are indeed fakes, but that won't matter. Haku will be safe long before they learn that fact. I told those 2 not to say anything. Zabuza half growled, half groaned. Calm down. They only said anything because they were desperate to find help. They were lucky enough that the client hired us and that he lied about the mission being C-ranked. You said you could save Haku, but you might be in over your head, kid. Those 3 IWA Nin are Boulder Black Ops. Zabuza said, somewhat skeptical of Naruto's ability to get Haku back. 2 IWA Nin, Zabuza. Naruto corrected with a knowing smirk on his face. That caused Zabuza's thought process to stop what it was doing. What do you mean? Naruto's smirk grew bigger as he dropped a fairly burnt IWA headband onto the floor in front of the swordsman. What I mean is that Iwa's stone wall of silence is now a fucking statistic, and before you ask... Yes, he screamed like a little bitch. If it weren't for the bandages covering his face, Naruto would have seen Zabuza's jaw hung wide open in complete shock. This kid just offed one of Iwa's most dangerous ninja. I was told by our tyrant of a Mizukage that Ishigaki took on over 25 of our jonin and not only lived, but came away with nothing more than scratches that wouldn't even require a civilian to go to the hospital. Yet this kid, this genin, took him down and he himself isn't even injured. As if reading his thoughts, Naruto slightly shook his head. While the plan to trap, interrogate, and kill him was my idea, I had help. I don't think my plan would have worked without sensei. And who's your sensei? The swordsman asked. Kakashi Hatake. Came the answer to his question, leaving the ex-Mist Nin stunned once more. This kid's gotta be shitting me. His sensei is the Sharingan Kakashi. Kakashi Hatake is known to be one of the world's most dangerous non-Kage level shinobi. Combine that with the fact that this kid could have killed me by surprise if he so desired. Ishigaki never stood a chance, even if he was one of Iwa's best. If this kid and his crew is here to help, maybe we can get out of this yet. Still, I want to test one more thing. I've got one question for you, Naruto. What will happen once this whole thing is done? Zabuza asked carefully. Naruto sensed that Zabuza wanted to trust him, but still had a few lingering doubts due to him and his 3 apprentices being labeled missing Nin by Mist. Naruto nodded in understanding at the question. The swordsman didn't want to fall into a trap that could ultimately send him and his crew back to Kiri as prizes. 2 things. 1, we let you go and you go about your business, or 2, you guys can join our village without penalty. Naruto answered. Why would the Leaf accept us when we are wanted fugitives? Because, Naruto said as he became serious. We already know that the 7 swordsmen of the mist were framed by a corrupted Mizukage. We don't support the current Mizukage due to the fact that he wanted to destroy any bloodline he saw. We had even discovered plans that called for suicide bombers to sneak into our village and detonate themselves in or near clan houses that were known to have bloodlines. The only reason that a war didn't break out was because at that time, the mist erupted into a civil war. Our Hokage agreed that sending a ninja would be suicide, so we simply left the situation alone. Lord Hokage has asked us to make an offer to any swordsman of the mist that we come across to join our village. Are you willing to accept our offer? Zabuza nodded in understanding before going silent for a while, thinking about everything that the blonde genin had told him tonight. At first, he thought about turning down the boy's help, but he was at his wits' end with no ideas of how to rescue Haku. This kid was willing to stick his neck out to save his surrogate daughter, and all he asked in return was for them to join the Leaf Village. It would be nice to have someplace to call home instead of being on the run all of the time. His mind made up, Zabuza stood up and walked over to Naruto, who was awaiting his answer. The swordsman stared at Naruto for a moment before slowly sticking his hand out to shake the boy's hand. Kid, you have a deal. The next day, just a few miles from Tezuna's house, it had been a quiet morning as the convoy had been walking for nearly 4 hours. Naruto informed Kakashi what had happened once the clone that met with Zabuza dispelled the previous night. The rest of the team was told to expect an attack, but Kakashi and Naruto knew what was really going to happen. The group heard a noise from the bushes and were immediately on guard. Just as the group was getting ready for an attack of any sort, the tension evaporated when a rabbit came running out of the bushes. The rabbit ran past everyone and stopped right in front of Naruto. While a bit strange, nobody thought much of it. Naruto and Kakashi looked at each other before nodding with small smirks on their faces. The signal had been given. Just outside Gato's HQ, a figure waited patiently as he watched the Ronin go about their business. The figure wasn't at all impressed with Gato's top-notch security. They weren't even doing anything other than lazily walking around and drinking sake that they likely took from the village. Hell, they kept walking in the exact same pattern ever since he arrived. Even sadder, these guys looked like they could barely handle 4th-year academy students. As he continued to watch the Ronin, he felt a slight pulse of chakra in his pocket. The figure pulled out a teal scroll, which then promptly went poof and disappeared. The man smirked. It was time to set the plan in motion. He began to walk towards Gato's base as if he was supposed to be there. 2 patrolling Ronin stopped walking and looked right at him. They narrowed their eyes at him, but not of suspicion. It was dislike. Nevertheless, they jerked their heads towards the main building, signaling for him to proceed. This was good since Ronins were known to despise shinobi. The fact that they didn't even take a closer look meant that they didn't suspect a thing. The man proceeded forward and entered the building. It didn't take him long to encounter a Iwa Kunoichi, who was walking towards him. She looked fairly agitated. You're late, Ishigaki. Back with the convey. Everybody down. Kakashi and Naruto shouted at the same time as a giant Zanbato came spinning towards them. Naruto grabbed both INO and Sakura, dragging them to the ground along with him. Kiba grabbed Tezuna and dragged him to the ground. While Sasuke dropped to the ground by himself, Inabi had to grab Ami as she was still confused, and just in time as the blade passed over them and embedded itself into a tree. On top of the blade stood the demon of the bloody mist himself. Well, isn't this a surprise? I never thought I would run into you, Sharingan Kakashi. Zabuza Momochi, Kirigakure's demon of the bloody mist. Kakashi lazily responded. This got the attention of Sakura and Ino. You mean this guy is? Ino gasped as Naruto nodded. Yeah, he answered. He's one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Bingo, Gaki. Zabuza smirked as he let out a little of his killing intent. Kakashi, Naruto, and even Inabi seemed unaffected by the sight of the missing Nin. Sakura was certainly scared, but she was able to hide it, if only barely. Ino was the same way. Kiba was sweating profusely, but was still able to control most of his fear. Sasuke was shaking like a leaf, barely able to control his breathing. Even his father couldn't put out this much ki. Ami wasn't even standing. She was on her knees, almost sobbing. She was absolutely scared shitless. Even Tazuna was doing better than she was. And he was a civilian. Zabuza noticed Ami's reaction to his ki, but didn't act on it. He had already agreed to the deal and didn't want to run his and his 3 apprentices' chances of being accepted into the Leaf. Despite that, the Mist Nin would make it a point to talk to Kakashi about Ami's reaction later on either that girl needed to be retrained or dropped from the shinobi program altogether. He made note of the extra chakra signature a quarter of a mile behind the Leaf group. He was inwardly relieved when Kakashi and Naruto signaled to him that they knew about the observer behind them. Naruto went one step further by moving his foot on top of a rock that was in front of him and tapped on it once. So it is one of the IWA Nins. Zabuza mused before he inwardly smirked. This is exactly what we had planned. If one of them is here, then that leaves just one of them guarding Haku. And if what the kid said was true, then those 2 kunoichi are boulder ops in name only. Apparently, the brass in IWA didn't want to spare any of their actual boulder ops on this mission. The core shinobi Ichigaki was only sent to keep an eye on them. That may explain why the kid wants them alive. Now then, Kakashi, you know who I'm here for. Time to hand over the bridge builder, Zabuza said, pointing towards Tazuna. Kakashi smirked. Sorry Zabuza, but you know I can't do that. It'd be bad for business if word got out that Konoha gave up their clients at the first sign of trouble. Very well, Kakashi. It's your funeral. As well as the brats. Zabuza grinned somewhat maniacally as he swung Kubikirabocho through a nearby tree, easily slicing it in half with no resistance. Kakashi spoke to the rest of the Leaf team without taking his eyes off of the ex-Mist Nin. Alright, listen up. I will handle Zabuza, Naruto, and Inabi. You 2 will be my backup. Only jump in when necessary or when I request cover fire. The rest of you guard Tazuna using a pentagon formation. Ino, you're in charge back there. Sakura, Kiba, Sasuke, and Ami, you're to follow Ino's orders to the letter. Failure to do so will result in you being charged with insubordination. Do you get me? We get you, sir. Ino, Sakura, and Kiba chanted. Sasuke simply grunted. Ami nodded weakly. You ready, Kakashi? Zabuza taunted. While everyone else saw it as a taunt, Kakashi and Naruto knew better. The only thing that concerned the 3 of them was that Inabi wasn't in on the plan. Granted, that was why Kakashi regulated him to backup status, but that didn't mean that the Uchiha's pride would allow him to completely follow orders. Gato's base. Where the hell have you been, Ishigaki? Kamitsuchi had to go keep an eye on Zabuza. Something you were supposed to do. The kunoichi reprimanded, the malice in her voice obvious. Naruto, staying in Ishigaki's character, applied his killing intent towards the kunoichi, causing here to sweat profusely and even shake slightly. Did you forget who you were talking to, Koratsuchi? He responded, his voice cold as ice. There is a reason I'm called Iwa's Stone Wall of Silence. Talk to me like that again and you will be silenced, just like your father was. You'll do well to remember that. Why yes, sir. Koratsuchi slightly stuttered, trying to keep her fear and anger in check. Now then, I need you to go and help your sister, Ishigaki commanded. I don't understand. She's capable of keeping an eye on Zabuza on her own. While that may be true, I'm sending you there because I also want you to watch one other, or rather, 2 others. Apparently, Konoha saw fit to send 2 Uchihas. One of them so happens to be Fukagu's son, Sasuke Uchiha. Koratsuchi's head shot up rather fast upon hearing that as Ishigaki continued. Don't engage them. Simply observe and note everything they do. Do not worry about the prisoner. I will watch her. And before you ask, no, I don't plan on taking advantage of her. She has a nice ass, but I prefer. more experienced women, he said, giving her a strange look that made Kuratsuchi extremely uncomfortable. Kuratsuchi wanted to tell him to stop ogling her, but decided against it. She didn't want to give him a reason to hurt her or worse, report her to the Tsukage. Being the granddaughter of the third was something that worked against her and her twin sister. The only reason they were still serving in Iwa's shinobi force was because her grandfather, before he fled, told her and her sister to bide their time by being loyal to the current regime until the time was right to leave. Yes, Commander. She bowed before shining away to join her sister. After she left, Naruto's face fell. He had seen a few memories involving her and her twin sister, but it was obvious that they hated the current regime and what it stood for. He knew for a fact that the current Tsukage and the council were looking for any excuse to kill them. I'm sorry I had to do that, Kuratsuchi-san. His face then went dark with silent rage. Ishigaki really was a fucking asshole, just like the fourth Tsukage and the rest of his damn toadies. They're even terrorizing their own ninja. The real Ishigaki was given the order to kill them after completing the current mission. However, it was worse than that. Ishigaki was planning to have some fun with both of them before getting rid of them. This is what made his blood boil. Deciding not to dwell on it for now, he walked into the room that had Haku captive. Other than a small bruise on her left cheek, Haku looked to be in good condition, although she did have her hands and feet tied. She was asleep. Just as Naruto was about to reach out and attempt to free her, Haku's eyes shot open. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice filled with contempt. "Whoa there, lady. Calm down. I'm not here to hurt you." Naruto held his hands up slightly in defense. "Just what the hell do you take me for? You threatened to beat me until I told you everything about Zabuza-sama." She shot back, her voice now raised. "Give me one good reason why I should believe you." Naruto looked at her for a moment before shrugging. "Okay." A cloud of smoke suddenly appeared around Ishigaki. When the smoke cleared, Haku was shocked at what she saw. Where the IWA Nin was standing was someone totally different. The person standing in front of her had blonde hair, wore a black skin-tight under-armor shirt with, had black and teal camouflage pants, and had shin-high shinobi boots, and, think Neos boots, except the toes are exposed like other ninja sandals. She also noticed that he wore black tight long-sleeved fingerless gloves that stopped just below the elbow. There seemed to be small diamond-shaped metal situated where his knuckles are. Finally, she noticed that his Hittite had the Konoha symbol. Who are you?" Haku stuttered in shock. Just what the hell was a leaf ninja doing here? "My name's Naruto, and I'm getting you out of here." Back with the leaf group, 20 minutes later. 8 points. Larynx, spinal column, lungs, liver, jugular vein, subclavian artery, kidneys, and heart. Which one should I strike?" Came Zabuza's voice, from everywhere, yet nowhere from inside a highly dense fog that he created. "What the hell is this?" Came Kiba's voice, obviously uncomfortable with not being able to see. "Keep it down, Kiba," Ino quietly ordered. "This is the hidden mist jutsu? It's a Kiri jutsu that's designed for a style of assassination called silent killing. Naruto-kun mentioned it once when he, Sakura-chan, and I came across the information while inside the mind pool realm. The user doesn't need sight to kill you, not when he or she can use the rest of their senses. Mind pool. Such a worthless bloodline." Came Sasuke's condescending voice. Sakura wilted a bit at the comment. She might not have been as bad as Hinata used to be, but her self-confidence did take a hit from time to time. While she now hated Sasuke for the part he played in during Naruto's childhood, she knew that he was the Uchiha clan's most prized genin and future clan head. What was she? "One of you brats is a Haruno?" Came a voice from behind Zabuza's, to be exact. They turned to see Zabuza sitting on a medium-sized rock. Sasuke was about to dash towards him to attack when Ino stopped him. "Stay in formation, Sasuke. I don't take orders from some second-rate fangirl from a second-rate clan." Sasuke responded, the arrogance in his voice clearly picked up on by everyone else. "Do not think I will put up with your shit anymore, Uchiha. Take one step out of that formation and you will go up on report," Ino pointed out in an icy tone. "I'd listen to her, Uchiha brat," Zabuza intoned. "No major village tolerates the kind of attitude you're putting out. Besides, if you do attempt to attack me, I will knock your little arrogant ass out cold, leaving one less person to guard the bridge builder. As for your comment about the mine pool being useless, Ever heard of the term, knowledge is power? Because that's what that bloodline does. Wait, how do you know about that bloodline? Sakura asked despite the situation. Zabuza looked at her and chuckled. Pink hair and green eyes. Yep, definitely a Haruno. I was a missed ANBU kid. It's my job to know who's who, although I will admit that I only know the basics of the bloodline. Chances are, I'll never learn all of its secrets. Be thankful you have that bloodline, Pinky. It's one of the few powerful bloodlines that truly can't be obtained or accessed by outsiders. Why are you having a casual conversation with us? Aren't you supposed to be trying to kill us? Ino questioned, her eyes narrowed. If you want to get technical, little lady, I'm trying to kill the bridge builder, not you. Zabuza lazily pointed out. That said, not everything is what it seems. I take it those two out there haven't told you. Told us what? This fight is an act. You may not know it, but your blonde teammate, your sensei, and I have come to an accord. In exchange for helping us out of this clusterfuck, by rescuing my Kunoichi apprentice Haku, we've agreed to not go after the bridge builder and join your village. Zabuza informed, shocking the 5 genin as well as Tazuna. Wait, does that mean we're being tailed by those IWA neens that Tazuna-san mentioned yesterday? Sakura asked. Very sharp, Pinky. You might make a good ANBU someday. Zabuza complimented, making Sakura blush, as well as causing Sasuke and Ami to scowl. Yes, we are being watched by at least one of them at the moment. The swordsman paused for a moment, before his face formed what looked to be a huge grin. I stand corrected. The other remaining IWA Kunoichi just showed up. Wait. If your friend is being held captive, who's supposed to be guarding her? Kiba asked, confused. While Inuzukas weren't geniuses by any means, they weren't stupid either. Leave a prisoner unguarded is a huge no-no. The person who was supposed to be guarding her was Iwa's Chimiku no Ishigaki. Ino and Sakura paled considerably upon hearing that name. Both Inoichi and Samai had warned their kids about certain shinobi from other villages. Ishigaki was near the top of the list mainly due to 2 factors. 1, because they are Konoha, and 2, he's been known to rape kunoichis who have been captured by him, regardless of age. I wouldn't worry about that, though. Zabuza smirked. Everyone looked at him. So you killed him? Good. Garbage like him doesn't deserve to live, Kiba said. While I would have loved to take credit for that, sorry, it wasn't me, Zabuza responded. His grin grew even wider when he saw the confused expressions on the genins' faces. If you didn't, who did? Kiba asked. Here's a hint. Who wasn't in your camp the entire time last night? Zabuza then noticed that the mist was beginning to thin out. Looks like it's time to wrap this up. See you later, Gakis. Zabuza's clone then transformed into water before dropping to the ground, making a small splash sound. In the trees, a quarter-mile away, a few minutes earlier. Damn it. Of all the jutsus, he just had to use that one. Kamitsuchi grumbled to herself. It was hard enough trying to get information from the Konoha group without being detected. The hidden mist jutsu was an absolute nightmare to deal with for most ninja outside of Kiri, since they have no experience with using silent killing. The only shinobi in IWA that could possibly pull it off was Ishigaki. That name sent shiver down her spine. The way he looked at her and her sister, Kuratsuchi, was highly disturbing. She even didn't like the way he eyed their kunoichi prisoner, Haku, which was why the 2 sisters decided that at least one of them would be guarding Haku at all times. She knew what Ishigaki liked to do with kunoichi prisoners, and it sickened her and Kuratsuchi. As she watched the huge blob of fog in front of her, hoping that it would clear up soon, she felt a familiar chakra signature coming her way. Her eyes widened slightly. Oh no! If that's sis, then that means... While they did their best to keep Ishigaki away from Haku, he was the commander of the mission. Therefore, if he ordered Kuratsuchi to assist her, then she had no choice but to obey. She just hoped that Ishigaki became distracted enough not to have time to... Best not to think about it. As she put the thought out of her head, her twin sister Kuratsuchi landed right next to her. What the hell? Did Zabuza use what I think he used? Kuratsuchi gasped. Kamitsuchi nodded slowly. Yeah, hidden mist jutsu. Those Konoha ninja are going to have a rough time dealing with that, even if one of their jonin is Kakashi Hitaki. Kuratsuchi nodded in agreement. Sharingan Kakashi is well known throughout IWA, but not just for his skills, but also for who his sensei was. That's not all. There's a genin. Kamatsuchi started. If you've seen one genin, you've seen 'em all. Kuratsuchi deadpanned. Kamatsuchi shook her head. You don't understand. This genin isn't normal. First off, he has blonde spiky hair and blue eyes. Kuratsuchi froze when she heard that description. Seeing that she had her sister's attention, Kamatsuchi continued. Second, Kakashi asked this kid to be his immediate backup. What jonin uses a genin as their backup? She asked rhetorically. I see your point. Is it possible that the kid is related to Konoha's fourth? Knowing you want my opinion. Yes, I believe he is. There are rumors that Namikaze had a kid. On the day he died no less. Kamatsuchi mused. Before Zabuza put up that damn mist, Kakashi had mentioned that the genin in this group just graduated this year. Also, in Konoha, the age of the graduating genin are almost always 12. Match that up with the night of the Kyuubi attack that happened exactly 12 years ago and… We have Minato's kid right here. Kuratsuchi finished, still in slight awe. The two sisters sat in silence, mulling over what their next move would be. After what seemed like hours of silence, Kuratsuchi finally spoke up. Sis, this information must not get back to IWA. Kamatsuchi nodded in agreement. I agree. While I wasn't a fangirl of the fourth Hokage, I do respect him for defending the innocent, fire or earth. From what Father and Grandpa Inoki told me, our current Tsuchikage and the council ordered a group of core ninja to destroy a civilian village inside Fire Country. As far as I'm concerned, those core bastards got what they deserved when Namikaze cut their asses up in 5 seconds flat. Hey, don't say that out loud. Kuratsuchi hissed. While I share your opinion, we can't be caught saying that. We could be executed. What's the point anyway? Kamatsuchi shot back. You know they're planning to kill us anyway. Hell, I noticed that Ishigaki got a scroll the day after we arrived here. Ever since then, he's been eyeing us with his hand on his ninjato. How is that proof of anything? Kuratsuchi argued. That's just evidence. The proof was when I got a view of Gato's payroll. 3 things stick out. Zabuza's name isn't on that payroll and we aren't on that payroll. But Ishigaki's name is on that payroll. Kuratsuchi immediately went pale. If what her sister said was true, then at some point, Ishigaki was going to kill them, likely on orders from the Tsuchikage. Before she could say anything else, the mist on the battlefield began to loosen up. Hey, look alive! The mist is clearing up, Kamatsuchi commented. Sure enough, the two sisters could see the battlefield once more. On the battlefield. Thanks for the save, Naruto. Kakashi breathed as he had come close to being killed by Zabuza's giant decapitating sword. But Naruto used an electromagnetic shockwave to push Zabuza away. It was one of the few moves in his arsenal that didn't actually harm a person. This is a staged fight, after all. It wouldn't do to injure the swordsman since he practically is, as of last night, a fellow Konoha nin. As Zabuza picked himself off the ground, he then froze for a second, before looking right at Kakashi and Naruto. He then covertly put his hand on a nearby rock, lightly tapping it twice. While this action went unnoticed by Inabi, Kakashi and Naruto picked up on it immediately and gave a barely noticeable nod. The other IWA Kunoichi had arrived and was watching them along with her sister. Before anyone else could make a move, Inabi took advantage of the brief pause and dashed at Zabuza with his Sharingan active. The ex-mist shinobi narrowed his eyes at the charging Uchiha. The kid's right. This guy's a loose cannon just like his entire clan. Time to take this Uchiha fool down a peg. Just as Inabi reached him, Zabuza suddenly turned to water, causing Inabi to run right through him and fall into the water behind. After a few seconds, Inabi surfaced and started looking for the swordsman. It was then that he noticed something odd. Why the hell is the water so heavy? He got his answer when Zabuza appeared next to him and stuck his hand out towards him and shouted, Water style, water prison jutsu. Before Inabi could react, he found himself unable to move. His eyes widened when he realized that he was trapped inside of what looked like a giant water bubble. Naruto and Kakashi mentally breathed a sigh of relief. Inabi had almost screwed the plan up when he let his pride get in the way. At that moment, Naruto had received a memory from his clone that he sent to rescue Haku, and smiled. We still have work to do, but the hardest part of this plan is complete. Now then, it's time we confronted our spectators. Naruto then gave the signal to Kakashi that Haku was no longer in danger and was now being escorted to Tezuna's house. Kakashi understood the signal and nodded. Zabuza didn't react physically other than give a barely noticeable nod, but mentally, he was extremely relieved and had to retrain himself from running over and giving the Gaki and the copy ninja a friendly slap on the back for risking their lives to save his daughter. The three remained silent for a moment. They knew that they need to move quickly to apprehend the two IWA sisters watching them. Granted, Naruto knew that he could persuade them, but he didn't want to take chances. After all, assumptions are the mother of all fuck-ups. Finally deciding on a plan, Naruto made sure that his back was to the sisters and began signaling Zabuza and Kakashi what his suggestion was. Kakashi and Zabuza nodded slightly, approving the plan. Inabi was thoroughly confused as to why the three were communicating with each other using hand signs. He was about to speak up when Zabuza, in one smooth motion, released his water prison jutsu, gave Inabi a light chop to the neck which resulted in him being rendered unconscious and tossed back towards land. Inabi landed in front of the genin group that was guarding Tezuna with a soft thud. This had surprised the genin as well as Tezuna himself. According to most stories about the famous swordsman, it was unusual for him to simply knock someone out instead of killing them. What was even more unusual was the fact that Naruto and Kakashi relaxed their stance and did nothing to stop Zabuza from bonking him and throwing him towards them. Before they got a chance to ask what was going on, Naruto, Kakashi, and Zabuza vanished from sight. In the trees a quarter-mile away. What the hell? Kuratsuchi and Kamitsuchi both shouted at the same time when all three shinobi vanished from sight. 1 minute, the three ninja were in a pretty intense battle. The next, the three were standing still, making slight nods to each other. That alone didn't mean too much, but they knew something was up when Zabuza released the Uchiha Jonin and knocked him out instead of killing him. Since when does Zabuza Momochi send people into dreamland instead of hell? Kamitsuchi asked somewhat frantically. Screw that. I'm more concerned about where they went. Kuratsuchi responded in a slightly calmer tone, although it was obvious that she was slightly on edge. You really need to stop believing everything you read that comes out of Kiri these days. Came a voice from behind them. The sisters' eyes widened when they realized whose voice it was and spun around to see Zabuza Momochi lazily leaning up against a tree. What's the meaning of this? Kuratsuchi demanded. That's when they felt something cold and sharp resting on the back of their necks. They turned their heads slightly to see who had gotten the jump on them and gasped. It was the blonde kid they were watching, as well as Kakashi Hatake, Konoha's copy ninja. Naruto had a somewhat serious look on his face while Kakashi simply gave them an eye smile. Sorry about this, but you're going to have to come with us. Chapter 12, Liberation of Wave. As the group continued the journey towards Wave, the Tsuchi twins were questioned about their mission. To nearly everyone's shock, they gave them the answers they wanted without resistance. Inabi questioned whether they were telling the truth at all since it was very rare that enemy ninja willingly gave up truthful information without being interrogated, but Naruto confirmed that they, in fact, were being honest, having seen Ishigaki's memories. When asked why they gave this information freely, Kuratsuchi only said that it was a very long story and that it would be best if they waited to get to Tezuna's house to explain. Tezuna's house. So let me get this straight, you, a 13-year-old fresh off the tit genin, killed Ishigaki Iwa's stone wall of silence? Kamitsuchi asked skeptically. Kuratsuchi didn't say anything at all. She was too shocked. It wasn't every day that someone can take on Ishigaki and walk away alive, let alone win against him. Correct, Kakashi answered. Naruto gave him a look that clearly said that wasn't the entire story, but Kakashi simply ignored it. The boy needed to learn that portraying the image that he is trying to project would likely make potential enemies think twice about coming after him. Yes, he may have just graduated, but Naruto looks to be an exception since he had been trained well before he entered the academy. I suppose that makes sense, seeing as how he looked like a seasoned pro, Kuratsuchi mused. Although from my short observation, I can't say the same about at least one member of your team. Kuratsuchi shifted her eyes over towards Ami, who seemed to have caught on to her meaning and began shouting numerous insults at her. Nearly everyone rolled their eyes at her ranting, but ignored her. Still, forgive us if we don't believe you, but you're just a genin. Ishigaki is one of our village's best ninja, even if we hated his guts. Kamitsuchi spoke up, with a venomous look on her face when Iwa's now-dead stone wall of silence was mentioned. I know, Naruto agreed. That's why it wasn't just me. Kakashi-sensei was a big part of the plan. Ishigaki may have been a problem if he hadn't been overconfident. However, he was stupid enough to drop his guard when he believed that I was incapacitated by that golem warrior jutsu of his. Kakashi groaned. Naruto, there's a time to be modest, but not now. The twins caught the way he mentioned himself. What do you mean by that? When he means I, he means me. Kakashi sighed. I used a henge to disguise myself as my gen in charge, then used a substitution jutsu on one of his clones while Ishigaki was momentarily distracted. As a result, he captured you instead of the kid. Kuratsuchi finished. Impressive plan, copy ninja. You're every bit as wily as the bingo books say you are. Kakashi scratched the back of his head while giving off his trademark eye smile. While I'm flattered, the plan actually wasn't mine. Everyone turned towards Naruto. Some were shocked, the Tsuchi twins, Haku, Tazuna, Tsunami. Some smiled with pride, Ino, Sakura, Kakashi, Kyubi. One gave him a friendly backslap, Kiba. One nodded in respect, Zabuza. Two had a neutral look, but were raging on the inside, Inabi, Sasuke. And the last one just ranted like a fool, guess who? Okay, enough about all that. Naruto cut in, still slightly embarrassed from the looks he was getting. Gato is still out there, and it won't be long before he finds out that he's been had. Once that happens and realizes that he has 0 hostages to use as leverage, there's no telling what he'll do. Is there anything we can do? Tazuna asked. Keep building the bridge, old man. Naruto answered. That's what the people here in this village are relying on. Don't worry, you'll be guarded. If anything, you may be the safest person in this village since Gato no longer has any ninja on his payroll. It's the rest of the village I'm worried about. The blonde tailed off, concerned for the citizens that the tyrant may go after as retribution. How do we warn an entire village that the local rich guy could go crazy at any moment? Kiba spoke up. It was a dilemma. While they could all go out and begin warning people, what good would that do? Even though Gato no longer had access to hired shinobi, he still had ronin, which are still plenty dangerous to unarmed and untrained civilians. Another idea was that they could try and train a small group of civilians, turning them into a small militia, but even that plan wasn't a great one. First off, there wasn't enough time to get them up to speed. Second, it would draw too much attention since someone from Gato's camp was bound to find out. Last, the village had no access to weapons. Kakashi, do you remember the flower garden we were discussing last night? Naruto asked in a serious tone. Kakashi nodded his head while everyone else looked at them like they had totally lost it. You mean about directly pulling out the weeds instead of defending against them? The copy ninja responded in an equally serious tone. Yes, that discussion. Naruto nodded. While everyone else was giving them weird looks, Sakura's eye widened as if she finally understood their code speak. Kakashi and Naruto both caught her look. So she figured it out, guess I shouldn't be surprised. She Ayasa Haruno, after all. Kakashi mentally smiled. Ino saw the look on Sakura's face and then narrowed her eyes. Kakashi also noticed this and mentally sighed. I better tell Ino what's going on, or she'll attempt to mind-walk me. Naruto and Sakura may be immune to it, but I'm not. I was hoping we'd have more time, but it looks like we'll have to move up the timetable for that plan. Naruto said. So, you guys are going to go through with that, eh? Zabuza said, then smirked. I take back every comment I ever made about you. Leaf means not willing to kill. Whatever it is will help too. Everyone turned towards the Tsuchi twins. And why should we trust you? Inabi responded snidely. I have to agree, Kakashi said. You were originally hired by Gato. We don't know what your intentions really are. Besides, I believe IWA sees my student as a criminal simply because of who he's related to. That's because IWA is ruled by a monster, Kamitsuchi said with a hint of hatred in her tone. She's right, Kuratsuchi seconded. IWA as a whole has gone downhill since our grandfather was removed from his position as Tsuchikage. Granted, he managed to escape, but he is now considered public enemy number 1 by order of the 4th Tsuchikage. All because grandfather didn't want to start the 3rd Ninja War and take over all of the elemental countries. Not only that, Kamitsuchi spoke up, but our own father was killed by that bastard, she said. Her voice cracked, letting her emotions show. Kuratsuchi rubbed her back, trying to calm her sister down. Even Naruto had a hint of sadness on his face. Nobody deserved to lose a parent the way they had to. Inabi was about to ask more questions when Naruto stopped him. That's enough. They're telling the truth. And how would you know? Inabi rounded on him before he could stop himself. Mind your attitude, Inabi-san, Naruto said sternly. I know because I extracted information out of Ishigaki before he expired. They did not want to work for Gato at all, but they were forced to. Besides, it would seem that Ishigaki received orders from the Yondaime Tsuchikage to kill the Tsuchi twins after killing the bridge builder. I knew it. I fucking knew it, Kamitsuchi half-shouted. I knew it the second I saw that our names weren't on the payroll as well as Zabuza's. Zabuza raised his eyebrow for a second, but let it drop. It didn't surprise him that Gato was going to kill him and the demon brothers, while possibly taking Haku as a sex slave. So, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Ami blurted out without thinking. Nearly everyone facepalmed at such a stupid question. Sasuke didn't do anything, but his right eye had a noticeable twitch. As much as I hate the dobe, if he decides to write her up on report for being annoying and stupid, I'm sure as hell not going to stop him. Even Yamanaka and Haruno are better ninjas. Naruto, not surprisingly, asked what was on everyone's mind. Ijimeko are really that stupid? If the current Tsuchikage ordered Ishigaki to kill them, that means they are no longer rock nins in the eyes of IWA. Once that asshat finds out that the twins here are still alive, IWA will mark them as rogue ninja. Nobody likes traitors, Ami continued to blurt out. Well, no shit, Naruto sarcastically remarked. Why else do you think they hate the current Tsuchikage? He ordered them killed for no other reason than that they are related to the Inoki. Yes, we ninja must obey the orders of our Kages, but only if it is within reason. The second a Kage decides to execute a subordinate solely for personal reasons, he no longer deserves to wear that hat. The Tsuchi twins were in awe. The leaf and the rock were by no means allies, yet here was a leaf genin, the son of one their village's most hated enemy, no less defending them from one of his own. Also, they could have been killed at any time since the blonde knew about them from the start, but chose not to and instead went out of his way to have them captured unharmed. We understand why you don't trust us. Kuratsuchi spoke in a soft tone. We are from a village that you call an enemy. However, please try to understand. A lot of IWA shinobi and kunoichi never wanted that war to happen. Nearly the entire village was one step away from a revolution. However, he got wind of it and moved quickly, creating Core, a shadow group within our government, whose members could get to anyone in IWA and kill them at any time. We decided that until we can get access to their NOC list, we have no chance of ending his rule. Kakashi nodded, understanding exactly what she was referring to. The NOC list was basically a list of everyone who was and/or is a member of a village's special ops branch. The list was not only a roster, but it also had every piece of information about that agent, including their real names, where they lived, related family members, village ID and ninja ID, and so on. The NOC list is also updated every 24 hours, meaning that the list would also show what the agent's current assignment is and where. Should someone get their hands on the list, they could, in theory, take out a village's entire Black Ops division. Before I decide, I want to know one thing. What do you plan on doing after this mission ends? Kakashi questioned. The Tsuchi twins didn't hesitate to answer. Find our grandfather, was Kuratsuchi's answer. And from there, find a way to take back our village from that bastard that dares to call himself the Tsuchikage. Kakashi stared at them for a little while, before giving them any eye smile. All right then, we accept any help that you can provide. Inabi, Sasuke, and Ami were about to protest but instantly thought better of it when the copy ninja gave them an icy cold glare warning them to keep their opinions to themselves. Good. Now that all that is settled, I'll think I'll start preparing dinner. Tsunami smiled. To her surprise, nearly everyone pitched in. Naruto made several shadow clones to keep watch outside while he helped Kiba and the Tsuchi twins look for livestock and ingredients in the forest. Ino and Sakura stayed in the kitchen with Tsunami to help with the preparations. Kakashi, realizing that he wasn't very good at cooking, decided to help Naruto's clones guard the house. Tazuna decided that it was best if he stayed out of the way. Nobody minded, though, since his day job was tough enough as it was. Later that night in the forest, Team 7, the Tsuchi twins and Zabuza met outside in the forest just after midnight when everyone had gone to sleep. They needed a plan to take Gato out of the picture, but felt that certain individuals would ruin the plan. So, what do we do about Inabi, Sasuke, and Ami? Naruto questioned. Because to be honest, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. I second that. Kyubi-chan, where have you been? Naruto mentally asked, wondering what the vixen had been doing for the past few days. Trying to organize the info you got from that stone wall bastard you cremated. Trust me, there's quite a bit of info here and it will take time to sort out. I'm taking a break for the moment, Kyubi answered. Everyone remained quiet while looking at Naruto. They all knew that his silence and slightly unfocused stare meant that he was communicating with his nine-tailed tenant. What's she saying, Naruto-kun? Sakura asked. She's trying to categorize all the info I received from Ishigaki. Naruto answered his pink-haired teammate. Was there something you wanted to know? Actually, now that you mentioned it, I have quite a bit of info on Gato and his gang, but strangely enough, I don't have a map of his mansion. Almost nobody knows that piece of info, Kyubi said. Hell, the only reason Ishigaki knew was because he actually snuck into the bastard's office, gained access to his safe, and memorized the map that was inside. Remember, Gato doesn't trust anyone. It's highly unlikely that he would willingly let someone see a blueprint of his abode. She said that info is not common knowledge, even to the Ronin he employs, Naruto explained, repeating the Fox Demoness message back to his teammate. Up until now, he's kept those blueprints a secret, even from other shinobi. It took that bastard Ishigaki to find that info. Sakura seemed to accept that answer. Still, she wondered how useful that map would be since it's in Naruto's head and decided to ask him how they were going to make use of it. Naruto grinned as he pulled out what looked like a scroll, but instead of it being made of paper, it seemed to be made of glass, except that it was highly flexible. Realizing that everyone was staring at his unique-looking scroll, the blonde decided to indulge them. This scroll is made out of what's called nanoglass. When rolled out flat, it looks and feels like Gorilla Glass. However, unlike other glass, this kind can't shatter. Instead, the nanocells that make up the glass simply disconnect from each other, allowing the scroll to become extremely flexible. Also, unlike regular scrolls, I can transfer information to it via electricity. And as some of you know, all electricity carries information of some kind. With the NG scroll completely rolled out, Naruto placed his index finger in the middle before a small current went into it. After a second or two, a blueprint shows up. Okay, this is a map of Gato's entire complex, Naruto started. As the hour wore on, the group discussed how many of Gato's men were in the complex, who was on patrol, where they patrolled, where the barracks were, and where his fortune, bank numbers, and even some top-secret info that he somehow managed to snag from other shinobi. The general opinion was that while the number of Ronin was annoying, Gato has at least 200 Ronin on his payroll. They were only dangerous to people who weren't shinobi or kunoichi. None of them were a match for a ninja. While wanting to be part of the attack, Zabuza didn't trust Inabi, Sasuke, or Ami to be around his adopted daughter. He even thought that leaving Kiba alone with them was a bad idea, since if things went south, Kiba and Haku would be outnumbered 3-2 with no Jonin to back them up. By deciding to stay with the bridge builder as a guard, it would deter Team 11 from attacking his daughter and the Inuzuka heir. Once the team had ran through their plan of attack, Kakashi turned towards Naruto. You asked earlier about most of Team 11? The copy ninja asked his pupil and second-in-command. Naruto nodded affirmatively. Just to be sure they don't try anything, Zabuza, Haku, and Kiba will keep an eye on them. To be frank, only Inabi-san is a potential problem. Sasuke is only on equal footing with Kiba. As for Ami, I actually consider Jar Jar Binks to be more dangerous than her. Kakashi deadpanned the last part. Naruto nodded, trying not to laugh at his sensei's last response. Naruto did find deadpan humor rather funny and wondered who else he knew or would know that could do it better than Kakashi. KRT. Somewhere out in Suna, a certain red-headed boy sneezed. Gaara? I thought you didn't get sick, said a boy with war paint. I don't. Now shut up and keep an eye on the pasta this time, Kankuro. Your blackened angel hair pasta with blackened garlic lemon sauce isn't what I would have called a Mario Batali masterpiece. Gaara responded. A blonde girl with a giant fan on her back simply shook her head at her two brothers. Best genin in the village, and we can't even boil water without screwing that up somehow. Maybe we should have stuck to making more traditional food before attempting to fix more exotic cuisine. KRT. One night later, Team 7 was just outside of the Gado's compound perimeter, waiting to put their plan into action. While they came up with a general plan nights ago, Naruto thought it wouldn't hurt to send out some clones disguised as Ronin. It was a good thing he did. The blueprints to Gado's mansion was spot on, but the mansion was just part of a larger compound. There was a barracks for the Ronin, a small prison for people they decided to capture instead of execute, an armory, a security office, and 3 comm towers. While most of the areas weren't a real problem, the 3 comm towers were. What makes these towers a problem is that the security office uses them to communicate with the Ronin who are out patrolling the village. The team came to the conclusion that if they simply attacked the compound, those Ronin would be notified and one of 2 things could happen. The first was one that would make their plan harder. All of the Ronin would return to the compound and overwhelm them. They may be only Ronin, but even facing over 200 of them at once could be a major problem for most ninja if they were low on chakra. The second scenario was what made their blood run cold. Those Ronin in the field may very well initiate a directive given to them by Gado to do something terrible to the people of Wave in case of attack. Making things more complicated, a Naruto clone found out that the 3 towers were being constantly monitored by the security office. If one were to go down, the Ronin head of security would likely send out a signal that the base was under attack using one of the remaining towers. The course of action was obvious. All 3 towers had to go down at the same time. All 3 towers were equally distanced from the security office in a delta formation. This normally would require an ANBU team with excellent communication skills to do this. However, when you have the Shadow Clone Jutsu at your disposal and have mastered it, communication isn't an issue. INO was standing still with her eyes closed. While here telepathy range was good, she still wasn't experienced enough to block out all distractions around her, so the team stayed quiet while she did her thing. Clone Alpha in position. Came the mental voice in INO's head. Clone Beta in position. Came another voice a few seconds later. Clone Charlie in position. Came the final voice. INO opened her eyes, looking towards Naruto. The clones are in position, Shusho. Naruto nodded. Good. Contact the twins and let them know that we are finished setting up. Inside Gado's mansion. Where is Ishigaki? Gado asked the Kasuchi twins, his eyes narrowed at them. The 2 rock twins showed no outward emotion, but were slightly nervous since their boss was starting to get suspicious. He went after the blonde boy, Kamitsuchi answered. This caused Gado to get even more suspicious. Why would the stone wall of silence waste his time going after some snot-nosed leaf brat, and even if he did, why didn't he tell me? Kamitsuchi was inwardly sweating. She didn't think the short little greedy bastard would suddenly ask so many questions. Thankfully, Kuratsuchi, who has a cooler head and thinks better on the fly than her, responded for her. That's because the issue involving that boy is an IWA matter, Kuratsuchi asked. That's not good enough, Gado responded with his voice raised. It will have to be, Kuratsuchi responded coldly. We are under orders not to talk about that to anyone, Gado-san. If we talk about this to you, Ishigaki will kill us for telling you. Not my problem, Gado scoffed. Oh yes, it is. Kamitsuchi jumped in, playing along with what her sister is saying. Apparently, you don't understand the lengths our village will go to keep secrets. After he kills us, he'll kill you. What? Gado stuttered slightly. We know very little about the core division, but what we do know is that under no circumstances is any core agent to leave loose ends untied. We're IWA ninja, and even core considers us loose ends if necessary. What the hell do you think will happen to you, a non-IWA civilian, if we tell you something you aren't supposed to know? Kuratsuchi answered, effectively scaring the hell out of the tyrant. Seeing that he couldn't get the information that he desired out of the 2 IWA kunoichis without endangering his life, he decided to drop the matter. Fine, you have a point. Just make sure to tell him to speed things up. It won't be long before that bridge is complete. The midget crime lord waved them off as he went back to some paperwork currently on his desk. Before the twins could say anything else, they heard INO's voice inside their head. Phase 1 of the plan is complete. Proceed with Phase 2. Both twins gave INO a mental nod as Kuratsuchi made a quick hand seal that went unnoticed by Gado. A second later, the ground began to shake. An earthquake? Out here? Gado questioned, obviously baffled and slightly frightened. The Kasuchi twins feigned confusion and alarm. You've got to be shitting me. I thought the fault line going through here was not active. Kamatsuchi shouted out. Sir, do you have a shelter? Kuratsuchi asked Gato. Yes, but I don't let just anyone dash. It's not for us, it's for you. Go there now, Kuratsuchi instructed. Wait a minute, why should I dash? Gato began to argue, but was cut off. We live in stone country, you fool. We know these kinds of quakes. And believe me, it's only going to get worse. Unless you want to be a statistic on some national death toll report. Get yourself to that shelter now, Kamatsuchi shouted. Deciding that now was not the time to argue, the greedy billionaire took off towards his shelter. Once he was gone, the twins both smirked. Hey Dr. Xavier, the plan worked. The midget just ran off like a little bitch to his hiding spot. Kamatsuchi mentally communicated. Kuratsuchi facepalmed at her sister's habit of giving people silly nicknames. Roger. And don't call me that, Ino mentally yelled back. Back outside. Naruto looked over towards Ino and raised an eyebrow at the tick mark that sat on her forehead. Ino-chan, do I even want to know? I swear, that one sister is like Tayuya, Ino groaned. She saw Sakura giving her a smirk as if she had some idea of what got her all worked up. You think it and I'll give you the headache from hell, forehead. The blonde half threatened. Can you get access or not? Once Naruto-kun disables the security system. Yes, Sakura answered confidently. Naruto nodded at that. They are in place and ready. Everyone nodded back. Phase 2 was now complete. It was time to let the chaos begin. Inside the security office. This has got to be the most boring job ever, complained one of the Ronin. I want to cut something, not stare at some screen with nothing going on. Will you shut up already? This is the 7th time tonight you've complained about this job. Just be glad we're getting paid to do nothing but this shit. Could have been worse, you know. Ronin number 2 chided. Come on, man. We're Ronin, not rent-a-cops. Ronin 2 simply groaned. Why the hell was he assigned a partner who was young, bloodthirsty, and stupid? He was about to respond to his young partner when he noticed something odd on the security cameras. Hey, pay attention. Something's up on cameras 5, 6, and 7. The young Ronin turned to see 3 figures on the monitors just standing there. It was some blonde-haired kid who looked to be in his early teens. He knew for a fact that he was the youngest on the roster, and he was 19, so he was sure the kid wasn't one of theirs. What really got his attention was that all 3 figures in the camera were the exact same person. Outside near comm tower number 1, 2, and 3, the 3 Narutos stood nearly rock-still, ignoring everything around them. However, a closer look would indicate that the 3 were building up an electrical charge. After a few more seconds, their eyes shot open to reveal sky-blue irises, with sparks of electricity going through them. All 3 began to go through several hand seals. As this happened, the clear sky suddenly began to get cloudy. Back in the security office. Hey, what the hell is that brat doing? The young Ronin asked, completely baffled. The veteran Ronin took a closer look at what his partner was talking about. He continued to stare at the blonde through the screen, who was moving his hands at a very fast rate. He was about to chalk it up to some crazy villager, until he suddenly realized what the kid was doing, causing the veteran to pale considerably. He was making hand seals. Only one type of person did this sort of thing. He then noticed that the blonde wore a headband, confirming his fears. Shit, that kid's a ninja. If he's here, then that means that the rest of his team is here as well and that those rock ninjas failed. Quick, send out a message to the rest of the Ronin in the village and initiate the scorched earth policy, he shouted to his young subordinate. However, before the rookie Ronin could do anything, the monitor screens that the blonde was on suddenly went white. A couple of seconds later, the control panel in front of him exploded, killing both Ronin and destroying everything in the room. Outside near comm tower number 1, 2, and 3, just seconds earlier, all 3 Narutos finished their hand seals with the ram seal before lifting his hands up and shouted the name of the performed jutsu loudly. Lightning style, thunder crash down jutsu. The heavens parted ways as 3 massive bolts of lightning came from out of the sky and struck the comm towers with so much energy that they exploded, taking out everything within 100 yards of them. Smaller secondary explosions could be heard around the entire compound as the surge from the 3 strikes took out any electronic devices hardwired to the towers themselves, including the security office. Just outside Gato's mansion, the Ronin guards that saw the towers explode immediately scrambled inside to go get their boss. "What the hell was that?" Ronin number 1 asked. "I've never seen a thunderstorm like that. And to top it all off, it took out our fucking towers." "No way that's a coincidence. We need to let the boss know that we can't communicate with the rest of the Ronin through the towers anymore." Ronin number 2 answered while attempting to stay calm. Just as they reached Gato's double doors to his office, they were stopped when 2 kunoichi appeared in front of them. The Ronin recognized them as the Tsuchi twins, 2 of the IWA nin that Gato had hired. "Come on, let us through. This is an emergency," Ronin number 1 shouted. "Yeah, we need to tell the boss that our towers were destroyed," Ronin number 2 seconded. The twins simply gave them a bloodthirsty grin as they pulled out kunais from their weapons pouches. "We know." Outside, around the compound, the Ronin were scrambling around, trying to find out what was going on. However, they failed to notice that there were extras with their groups, until it was too late. At the barracks, "Get your asses out of bed and to your stations," shouted a Ronin officer at his subordinates. He then noticed that one of the Ronin was still in his bed. Irate at the lack of the awareness the sleeping Ronin was showing, he marched towards the bed and pulled the sheets off, and was kicked in his stomach by a Naruto clone, causing him to go to his knees. Before any of the Ronin had a chance to react, the clone took out several shuriken and threw them at the emergency fire sprinklers that were all over the room, causing them to break and shower the entire room. The Ronin just laughed at the seemingly wasted action before taking out their weapons and surround the blonde. "Tell me, what happens when you mix water with electricity?" The blonde grinned sadistically as he started to glow. While most of the Ronin weren't really all that smart, the Ronin officer went pale as he was the only one to figure out what the clone was about to do. Unfortunately for him, it was too late as the last thing he saw was the clone explode in a wave of electricity, which electrocuted every water-soaked Ronin in the room, killing them all. Right outside the armory. "There he is. He's heading towards the armory," a Ronin shouted as he and 49 other Ronin ran after a Naruto clone. The clone quickly ran inside the armory, but for some reason, didn't bother to shut the door. The Ronin, who were too busy chasing him, paid it no mind as they ran in after him. Once inside, the Ronin lost visual contact with the blonde. "Seal all the doors and cut the power," the lead Ronin ordered. "That brat doesn't leave this place alive." Once the doors to the armory were sealed and the lights went out indicating that the power to the armory had been shut down, the Ronin heard a voice that seemed to come from everywhere yet nowhere. "Wrong move, morons." The Ronin laughed, believing that the blonde didn't realize the situation he was supposedly in. "Kid," the lead Ronin spoke up, "you're the one who made a wrong decision to run in here. Now you're stuck in here with us. Now then, if you come on out no, I promise to make your death quick and painless." "Would an explosion count as quick and painless?" the clone asked as it walked out from a shadow near a control panel. That caused the Ronin all around the armory to raise their eyebrows. What the hell was he talking about? They didn't store explosives in this building. "Doesn't this panel next to me house a self-destruction initiative?" The leader's eyes widened slightly. How did this kid know about the self-destruct sequence inside the armory? That's when he remembered something and smirked. "Nice try, kid. But the only people who can activate that are the boss and lead Ronin, which includes myself. Even then, it requires power, which has already been cut." The Naruto clone's smirk only got bigger when he held up a finger, which began glowing with a visible electrical current going through it. He then touched the panel and a few seconds later, a monotone female voice could be heard on the armory's PA system. "Self-destruct sequence has been initiated. Detonation will occur in 5, 4, 3. All the Ronin in the armory froze in terror. 2. "What the hell?" shouted the leader, clearly scared shitless. How the fuck did he just activate that sequence just by touching it? That's when it hit him. The brat can control electricity. Not only that, he was smart enough to purposely lead a quarter of the entire Ronin army into this place, knowing full well that it had a self-destruct sequence that would take out the entire building. 1. "Have a nice day," the female voice said in a somewhat cheery tone. "Thank you." the Naruto clone remarked, grinning like a maniac. Right outside the armory. How long have they been in there? Ordered a Ronin platoon leader. Only about 10 minutes. It seems that they have the kid trapped. They've sealed all entrances and cut all power to the building. Good. The leader nodded. Now all we have to do is Y-dash. Suddenly, the building in front of him exploded, killing everyone inside, as well as the leader and his platoon that were positioned right outside of it. Just outside of the perimeter. As explosions were going off and screams of the Ronin could be heard, the group of ninjas waited patiently as Naruto's supercharged clones continued their reign of chaos all around the base. After 20 minutes, the chaos ceased, with the only sounds that could be heard were the flames and a few buildings coming down due to the damage caused by the destruction Naruto's clones unleashed. Ino opened her eyes and stood up. It's done. All of the Ronin outside and around the compound have been eliminated. Kakashi nodded in approval. His genin charges did an exceptional job with planning the attack and its execution. It was rare that a genin squad pulled something like this off with very little to no issues. It was even rarer that a rookie genin squad performed such a task so flawlessly. He was extremely proud to be their sensei. All right, let's go free the prisoners and meet up with the Tsuchi sisters. After that, we will deal with Gato himself. Then deal with the remaining Ronin in the village tomorrow morning. Kakashi ordered. Hi! All three genins saluted before all four-leaf nin took off towards the compound. Inside the compound, the two sisters continued to go room to room, killing any Ronin they came across as well as searching the room for anything useful. If it was information on them, Naruto, his team, or even Zabuza and his group, they would promptly destroy it. IWA finding out was bad enough. Kiri getting hold of this information was also bad news since the current Mizukage was a bigot who hated bloodlines. They had heard that the leader of the resistance group that opposed him was a woman who herself had 2 bloodlines, but they didn't know her name since it was extremely difficult to get information of any kind from that region. Even the Tsuchikage was cautious enough towards Kiri to order all non-core shinobi to stay away from the war-torn ninja village, and even core ninja were ordered to observe only and not to make contact with any Kiri nin under any circumstances. Over halfway through their search of the compound, they heard explosions going off outside. They could only grin, knowing that the plan was going smoothly. Boys and their explosions, Kuratsuchi lightly joked. Tell me about it. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if they were forced to choose between explosions and sex. Kamitsuchi wondered. Only an Uchiha would take explosions over sex, you know? Both sisters, hearing the lazy voice, whirled around ready to attack but instantly relaxed when they saw a smirking Kakashi in the doorway with Naruto, Ino, and Sakura behind him, who were trying not to laugh at the comment their sensei made. Somehow, that doesn't really surprise me. Kamitsuchi smirked. I've heard that they don't even smile when a pair of nice ones jiggle in front of them, but they grin like maniacs when they set something on fire, go figure. Anyway, how did it go out there? Better than anticipated. Naruto answered her. We ended up not only destroying their comm towers, but their weapons bunker and barracks as well. We also managed to free some villagers we found in their jailhouse. However, the cherry on top is that we killed every single Ronin in the area. That only leaves the ones in here and the few in the village. What about Gato? Kakashi inquired. What about the little asshat? Kamitsuchi deadpanned. I mean, where is he and what shape is he in? Kakashi replied in an equally dry tone. Kamitsuchi was about to give the copy ninja another wise guy remark when Kuratsuchi reached across and smacked her sister in the back of the head. Stop being a smart-ass and just tell him where that greedy little turd is, Kuratsuchi scolded, slightly annoyed by her sister's antics. Fine, fine, Kamitsuchi huffed. The greedy little midget waddled towards his safe room and locked himself inside. Does he know that you guys are in on it? Kakashi asked. Both twins shook their heads. Kakashi nodded approvingly. The plan has gone even better than they anticipated. Originally, they were simply going to surround the compound and storm it, but with Gato locked in his own panic room and unaware of what was going on, it was certain that he would not escape. You had to come out sometime. Sensing what his Jonin sensei was thinking, Naruto spoke up with a dark smirk on his face, while lifting his index finger that visibly showed electricity going through it. We won't have to wait very long. Inside the panic room, Gato sat at a desk that was in the corner of the room, visibly nervous. All he knew was that a major earthquake had occurred and had no other choice but to go someplace where even a 9.0 couldn't do any damage. The room really was built to withstand almost any natural disaster. He imagined that the only destructive force on Earth that could compromise it was a bijou, and even then, it would have to be one closer to the four tails since that particular tailed beast had control over lava. However, something was bothering him. Earthquakes normally last longer than this. Something's wrong. Unfortunately for Gato, his suspicions came too late as the door to the panic room unexpectedly began to open. "The hell?" Gato exclaimed. A panic room is only supposed to be opened from the inside, after all. When the door stopped opening, the greedy billionaire was puzzled when he saw that no one was outside. Noting that the building was no longer shaking, he simply chalked it up to a technical malfunction. "I paid all that money for this thing and it opens when it isn't supposed to. Looks like I'll have to have my boys go into town and fire that tech that built it." However, right as he stepped over the threshold, he suddenly felt slightly lightheaded. After a moment or so of slight dizziness, the symptoms disappeared. Must have been the change of pressure. Gato must, as he mentally waved off the strange occurrence. His first thought was to reestablish contact with his hired men, but something, or maybe someone, he couldn't tell, told him that he should go check his safe and all of his accounts to ensure that nothing was missing. After all, the thugs he hired only did his bidding because he was paying them. Nothing other than business sense and intelligence was keeping them from simply robbing them. Ronin were rogue samurai for a reason. As he walked down the hall towards his office, he noticed that the rooms he had passed were in shambles. What a mess! Damn earthquake. Now I'm going to have to pay someone to clean this up, he thought, somewhat annoyed. If it weren't for the damn natural disaster, he would have sworn that someone had raided and searched these rooms. As he finally entered his office, he was even more annoyed at what he saw. Apparently, the roof had caved in and smashed his desk, but it wasn't the desk that had him upset. He noticed two sets of limp hands sticking out of the rubble. Both were female. Shit, the two rock bitches are dead. That's a major problem. Without them, I can't hope to stop those leaf neens and kill that damn bridge builder. Guess I'll have persuade IWA to send more ninja. If they refuse, I'll have no choice but to hire those new sound ninjas. Cammy, I hope I don't have to deal with that silver-haired guy with glasses, Kabu what's his name, for too long. He makes my skin crawl. Deciding to deal with that problem later, he stepped over the rubble and over to his vault. He typed in the password and pushed the door open. He noticed that nothing seemed out of place. But that same feeling he had when he left the panic room was telling him to check his bank accounts anyway. He never really did trust Iwa's stone wall of silence, seeing that the rock shinobi was casually asking questions about the security of his vault. He walked up to the laptop computer that was stationed in the corner and started typing in the account numbers and passwords to all of his bank accounts and going through them one by one. After half an hour, he had finally checked the last account and found nothing out of place. Good. Not a red cent is missing. Guess I was worried for nothing. Now to go find Ishigaki and inform him that he will have to go back to Earth Country and bring in replacements. Gato mused. As he stepped outside of the vault, that strange dizziness he felt earlier came back. But this time it was much more noticeable. Just as he was about to ask himself what was happening to him, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. As he raised his hand to clutch his chest, he felt something hard near his chest, and something warm and sticky. He looked down, and his eyes widened in horror before they froze. The last thing he would ever see was a sword sticking out of his chest. Chapter 13. Departure. It didn't take long for the villagers of Wave to find out that Gato had met a violent fate at the hands of the Konoha shinobi, but didn't celebrate right away due to a somewhat decent size of Ronin still patrolling the village. Strangely enough, the Ronin didn't learn of this until it was too late, which was the next day. Team 7 immediately launched Operation Clean Sweep, which involved simultaneous attacks on all of the crooked Ronin across the village. Thanks to Naruto's shadow clones, Sakura's knowledge of their locations and village layout, and Ino's coordination of the operation. Simply put, the Ronins never had any real chance of victory. Kakashi oversaw the operation, but he never had to step in at any point. As far as he was concerned, his students have been ready for the Chunin exams, and this mission more than proved it. He knew some solid Chunin that didn't execute operations this well. The copycat Nin wasn't the only one who thought this way either. Zabuza was highly impressed with Team 7 and commented that they would have made very good Mist Shinobi. He even wondered why Konoha didn't just secretly promote them to Chunin like Kiri did on occasion when talent like this showed up. When Kakashi brought up the Chunin exams, Zabuza lightly scoffed and said that the exams were for teams that had potential, but hadn't been thoroughly tested. Even though Kiri regularly sent their genin on C and B ranked missions, no village knowingly sent a genin team on an A rank or higher. The few times it does happen, the genin teams weren't anywhere near being ready and the mission usually ended in failure, either due to not being able to fulfill the mission objective or the entire team was wiped out. The twins were also quite impressed with the young genin team and noted that IWA didn't have any genin team on this level. In fact, had they been IWA Nin during Inoki's reign, it was likely that they would have been promoted to Jonin in less than a year. That said, they were also thankful that they weren't IWA Nin since it was also likely that they would have been forced into the core program under threat of death to their family and friends under the current Sachikage. Team 11 minus Kiba wasn't very happy with how things had turned out. While their orders consisted of guarding Tazuna during Team 7's assault on Gato's base and the village-wide cleanup operation, they saw it as babysitting a civilian family, nothing more. The Tsuchi twins told the team that in order for them to remain hidden from their village until they could remove all of the weeds, they requested that they be listed as casualties. Under most circumstances, a Jonin would likely not agree to this, but because Naruto now had vast knowledge of what went on in IWA, as well as the identity of the current Sachikage, Kakashi not only agreed to this, but also instructed Naruto to pass on what he knows to the Tsuchi twins, so that they could put together a plan to help find their grandfather and eventually take back their village from a dangerous and cruel tyrant. In return, the twins promised that when they succeeded, they would immediately send an envoy to offer not only a peace treaty, but an alliance as well. The twins left early, but not before saying goodbye to the Tazuna and his family, as well as their new allies. 2 days later, Teams 7 and 11, along with Team Zabuza, were ready to leave for Konoha. Nearly the entire village was present to see off their new heroes. While Team 7 plus Kiba and Team Zabuza waved their goodbyes, Team 11 remained mostly emotionless. To them, it was nothing more than a job. Once the ninjas left, one of the villagers asked what they were going to name the bridge. After hearing about what a certain blonde shinobi had done to save their village, Tazuna pretty much had an idea of what he was going to name the bridge that would be the village's biggest landmark for many centuries to come. KRF. Sachikage Tower, Iwagakure. Genba walked slowly down the hallway towards the office of his Sachikage, a visit he was not looking forward to. While you would think that getting reprimanded by your leader wasn't the end of the world, that Sachikage wasn't like most leaders. Of the people who get called into his office, half of them are arrested and taken to the facility. The facility was supposed to be a rehabilitation center for ninja who break the laws of the village and are sent there to learn their lesson. However, ever since the current Sachikage took power, it was turned into a torture camp. Nowadays, the facility held innocent people who are related to shinobi or kunoichi who fail their missions or betray the village. To ensure that the prisoners don't escape or revolt, Corps Ninja are its guards. The current warden himself is the lieutenant commander of Corps, Aizen Ryokusuke. That name sent shivers down his spine. The man was an absolute terror, his cruelty towards civilians in the village being common knowledge. He was known to randomly beat civilians bad enough to send them to the ER when he was in a particularly foul mood. Even children weren't exempt from his attacks. Genba remembered one incident when Aizen had ordered a Chunin to kill a child for accidentally hitting his leg with a football. When the Chunin refused, Aizen killed the child himself, and then ordered a Corps operative to arrest the Chunin for insubordination. When a few civilians complained about the incident, they were also arrested and sent to the facility. He hoped to Kami that he wasn't going to the facility. Even though there are a lot of innocent people locked away in that awful place, that Sachikage saw no reason to separate them from actual hardened criminals. In fact, Genba suspected that some of these criminals were promised reduced sentences if they regularly tortured the non-violent population. As Genba walked further down the hall, he noticed that he was getting looks of pity from ninja and civilians alike. This wasn't good. Something really bad must have happened on an important mission, and it put the Sachikage in a really bad mood. It didn't matter that he had done nothing wrong. The Sachikage was known to kill the messenger, so to speak. It didn't help that a few of the people were whispering as he walked by. When he finally got to the huge double doors that lead to the Sachikage's office, he hesitated for a moment and took a deep breath in an attempt to calm himself. Just as he was about to knock, "Enter," came a calm but cold voice. Genba swallowed hard and did as the voice commanded, pushing open the doors of the office and walked inside. Sitting at a large granite desk was the Tsuchikage himself. While most of his features were covered by his Kage hat, Genba could still see a little of his lower face. "Genba!" The Kage beckoned. The IWA Chunin unconsciously stepped forward, too scared to hesitate too much. "I'm assuming that you have some news for me regarding the mission in Wave." The Kage spoke. "Why yes, Tsuchikage-sama," Genba stuttered out. "Well?" The leader of IWA replied in a cool tone. "I don't have all day, Chunin. State your report, or I'll find someone else to inform me of the situation." Genba gulped. In a normal workplace, that was usually your boss threatening to fire you and replace you with someone better. However, this wasn't a normal workplace. This was a ninja village, one ruled by a cruel and ruthless leader. Getting fired was the least of your worries. "There has been a complication, my lord." "What kind of complication, Genba?" "It has been reported that Ishigaki is missing, sir." Genba reported. That got the Tsuchikage's attention. After a few seconds of silence, the Tsuchikage responded. I see. So the twins have finally betrayed me. Oh well, I was planning to kill them anyway. This just gives me a better excuse to behead them. I want core agents sent out after them immediately. Tell them to retrieve their swords if possible." The Kage ordered. When Genba wouldn't immediately move, he was about to threaten the Chunin when said Chunin spoke again. "I don't believe that is necessary, my lord." This caused the IWA leader to lazily raise an eyebrow at that statement. "And why not?" "My lord, we have retrieved some DNA from 2 large pools of blood found in the ruined mansion that belonged to Gato. The DNA from the 2 blood pools matched that of Kuratsuchi and Kamitsuchi. We also retrieved their swords. Unfortunately, they've been destroyed beyond repair." The room went dead quiet for several minutes. While the Tsuchikage hadn't moved, Genba was starting to sweat bullets. When the Kage was this quiet, it usually meant one thing: he was pissed. After several minutes, the leader finally spoke, but his tone was anything but pleasant. "Let me see that report," he ordered coldly. Genba slowly walked towards the desk and put the scroll he had in his hand carefully on the Kage's desk. He was unaware of a small white spider that crawled up his arm and into a pocket on his Chunin vest. After that, the IWA leader pointed towards a corner with a golem statue and ordered the Chunin to wait until he was finished reading the report. The Chunin did as he commanded and went over to the large stone statue. The room had 4 golem statues in each corner. "Kami, these things are creepy." Genba mentally shivered. The Tsuchikage was a bit of an art fanatic, but these things could hardly be considered art. They looked more like something from those Dracula movies he saw as a genin. As the Tsuchikage continued to read the scroll, Genba noticed that his facial expression didn't change much. But when it did, it never changed to a smile or even a smirk. It was a look that was borderline rage. After reading the scroll, the Kage slowly put the scroll down. "Genba," he spoke in a freezing tone. The Chunin froze in fear. He could sense some ki seeping out of his leader. "You failed to mention anything about Zabuza Momochi being hired by Gato in an earlier report." Please forgive me, my lord. I didn't think it was Genba tried to explain, but was cut off. "Shut up," the Tsuchikage responded in an icy tone. "Because of your failure to report this, I lost my best ninja as well as 2 decent tools." Genba started shaking uncontrollably in fear. He knew that there was no way for him to find out that information, seeing as Gato was so paranoid that he kept certain hires off records. Zabuza Momochi was just one of those cases. Yet his leader blamed him anyway for the death of Iwa's stone wall of silence, as well as the death of the previous Tsuchikage's granddaughters. He then did the only thing that he could think of that could get him out of this mess. He begged for his freedom. Please understand that even with our surveillance of Gato, he kept a lot of his hires off record. Also, at the time of the report, Zabuza Momochi hadn't been hired. Please, don't send me to the facility. I promise you, this won't happen again." The Tsuchikage didn't say anything for several minutes, making Genba freak out even more. He wasn't a particularly brave person, but he knew that if he was sent to the facility, the rest of his family would also be rounded up and sent with him. If anyone resisted, they were killed on the spot. He feared for his life, but he feared for the lives of his family even more. "Relax, Genba. I'm not sending you to the facility." The Tsuchikage spoke in a calmer tone. Genba breathed a sigh of relief at that news. He would be a free man for another day. Then it went to hell. The golem standing next to the Chunin suddenly came to life and grabbed him, pinning his arms to his side. The giant golem then proceeded to walk towards the large open window that was several feet behind the Tsuchikage desk. Before he could ask what was going on, he heard the Tsuchikage speak. I think the people of IWA need to be reminded once more of its art. Genba's eyes widen in absolute terror upon realizing what was going to happen to him. No, Kami, no, anything but that. Plesa, he screamed. However, it did no good as the Kage made a motion to the golem, which then threw him out the window, high into the sky. His screams could be heard for blocks. Just as the Chunin's accent began to slow, the Tsuchikage formed a one-handed tiger seal. A half-second later, a large explosion appeared where the Chunin used to be. The Tsuchikage's lips formed a small smirk. The explosion could be seen for miles. Art is an explosion.